Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, 5:15 regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. Tonight's invocation will be given by Mr. Jones, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Flores.
Thank you, Chair. Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come before you with this commission. We invite you to be here with us this evening to grant us wisdom with each and every case and situation that is presented tonight. In your name we pray.
And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, please announce any item you're recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Secretary, will you please do a roll call of the Planning Commission?
Sure. Commissioner Boado,
Present.
Commissioner Leon is absent. Commissioner Mendez,
Present.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Present.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Present. Staff is requesting to continue item number 5 on the agenda to the next Planning Commission, which is scheduled for May 15th. May I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
Yeah, I motion to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes. All right, we will now begin with item number 1 on the agenda. At this time, I will reopen public hearing at 5:24 p.m. May we have the staff report, Mr. Flores?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and the public. For the record, my name is Adrian Flores, Associate Planner with the City of Bell Gardens Planning Division, and this presentation is to discuss Conditional Use Permit and Development Agreement 2023-072 as it relates to City and Department of Cannabis Control Storefront Retail License request at 6231 Eastern Avenue. The applicant, Chris Glue, representing Joseph Martin and Mr. Nice Guy Bell Gardens LLC, are requesting 3 items. 1, to determine the project categorically exempt based on the common sense and new construction of small structures categories from the provisions of the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to state CEQA guidelines. 2nd, approve of conditional use permit authorizing the development of a 22,500 square foot structure and operation of a cannabis retail use at the subject site. And lastly, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement to establish certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. At the February 21 public hearing, commissioners requested added information such as a brief background on the history of the matter within the region. If 2nd, a higher rate of return for anticipated percentages of sales could be negotiated, and whether funds received in exchange for vested development rights could be used for programs that address homelessness. 3rd, identify project revenue breakdown and comparative cannabis retail rates of return from neighboring cities. And lastly, track and trace systems for accountability measures. A little bit further on the background, on June 26, 2023, the City Council adopted ordinance number 934, amending Title IX zoning planning regulations to conditionally permit or permit with additional development agreement options cannabis retail uses in commercial zones, and amend BGMC Title V business license regulations and taxes to add licensing and permit requirements for cannabis retail businesses. With ordinance 934, the city council adopted a 10% of gross receipt of sales rate and an annual 100,000 public benefits fee in exchange for a 5-year development agreement with an option to extend for another 5 years for a total of a 10-year term. As of February 2023, out of 238 out of 539 municipalities in California, or 42.2%, allow at least one type of commercial cannabis activity. The legal and regulated cannabis retail market is currently operating in at least 213 municipalities across the state. Los Angeles County has 88 incorporated cities. Of that, 23 allow some sort of cannabis sales. There are currently 7 active applications under varying states of review for negotiation, and 2 are being presented this evening. There are no overlaps of 500 feet with any of the applications as noted in the survey radius map shown on this screen. There is a 558-foot distance between 6231 Eastern Avenue and 5605 Gage Avenue. Both applications will be presented tonight. The state's DCC's regulations impose increased track and trace requirements to regulate cannabis product inventory. The California Cannabis Track and Trace System is a record-keeping system using software with unique identifiers for reporting the movement of cannabis and cannabis products through licensed commercial cannabis distribution chains. Pursuant to California Code of Regulations Title IV, Section 15051, Track and Trace System Conciliation, all cannabis retailers are required to keep account of all inventories. Should any discrepancies be noted, the license must be reported to the DCC pursuant. This track and trace system provides substantial support for accountability. Every license must be kept and maintain records and with the licensed commercial cannabis business. These records pertain to sales, staff, and contracting activities. The subject site was previously occupied by a restaurant, which has been vacant for approximately 20 years, with no legally permitted business operating from the site during this time. Currently, right now, this is the current condition of the site. Proposed modifications have been made to the site, and landscaping plans include relocation of the trash enclosure to the southwest corner of the site, away from the northern wall and adjoining site residents, and the addition of heavier landscaping on the northern property line to buffer noise and light from adjoining site residents. This was done for courtesy of the residential uses on the north side of the property. As noted in the initial staff report, the applicant provided a comprehensive lighting and photometric plan that shows the proposed location and lumens of all exterior lighting fixtures at the exterior of the building and parking areas. The proposed lumens would be consistent with minimum impact with respect to glare that might adversely affect any neighboring properties, since the anticipated glare would be 0 lumens at the subject site property line. No light spill over into neighboring properties is anticipated. This would be a substantial improvement from what currently exists as a restaurant use, since the restaurant can open its doors without having to make said lighting improvements. On March 6th, the applicant engaged in outreach efforts to the surrounding community and received over 40 letters of support, of which 33 originated from Bell Garden residents and business owners. The project as proposed will not result in more impacts than other retail uses and cannot be discriminated for the sale of cannabis alone. Conditions of approval, including but not limited hours of operation and security requirements, have been placed on these uses. As with other entitlements like alcohol and certain sensitive uses include parks, youth centers, daycares, and schools, and do not include primarily residential uses, buildings, and structures. With this presentation, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take action on the following. One, determine the project categorically exempt based on the common sense and new construction of small structure categories from the provisions of California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to the state CEQA guidelines. Two, adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit authorizing the development of a 2,500 square foot structure and operation of a cannabis retail use at the subject site. And three, recommend the city council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement to establish certain development rights in exchange for public benefits up to 10 years. The applicant is present this evening and would like to share a prepared presentation during the public hearing testimony. Staff, city attorney, and applicant are open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium, they may do so.
Thank you, Commissioners. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I think that they were loading up for me. Good evening, Commissioners and staff. My name is Christopher Glue, and it's my pleasure to present to you tonight on behalf of Mr. Nice Guy Retail Operations. We have several key members of our staff here tonight, including ownership. Staff did an excellent job in presenting our project to the Commission, and I will just highlight a few items from our last appearance. A reminder of who we are. If you could go to the next slide. We are a multi-state operator with 28 licensed cannabis retail locations. We have 7 licensed retail storefronts in the state of California alone. Mr. Nice Guy is a full vertically integrated operator. We cover growing operations, manufacturing, distribution facilities, and of course, the retail component of the cannabis sector. We employ almost 400 people throughout all aspects of the industry, with an emphasis on local hiring practices. We are aligned with the UFCW under a labor peace agreement. Mr. Nice Guy brings value to Bell Gardens as an industry leader in the cannabis space. If you could go to the next slide, please. When we last appeared before you, we received some valuable feedback and we acted on it. We heard your comments and concerns. We launched our community outreach and introduced ourselves to the neighbors. I personally went out with the team and walked door to door, introducing some members of our team to the local community. While some of the people we spoke to had questions about marijuana in general, there was unanimous support of our business. We received numerous letters of support. I know staff mentioned we had over 33 that were from Bell Gardens alone. We have an additional 25 that we brought with us tonight. We've continued to do our outreach. People allowed us to put up our flyers for our community event. In speaking with the neighboring business, we found the biggest concern was neighbors looking out for each other. 2 businesses located across the street were excited to hear that we would be providing 24-hour security and asked if we'd keep an eye on their locations at night. We provided our contact information so we could coordinate those efforts. We hosted a community event on March 6th at the proposed site. We mailed invitations to over 900 residents and businesses. We served food provided by local vendors and were prepared to address all concerns. At the event, we received only positive feedback from those who attended. We also revisited some local businesses to see if they had any issues for us to address. The message was clear to us that the community is supportive and not opposed to Mr. Nice Guy Retail in the business community. If you could go to the next slide, please. This slide highlights just a few of the local residents and businesses we received support from. I heard the commission say they may have questions and concerns about how the shop would operate within proximity to residential and close by a second store. I sent numerous emails to staff and directly to the Planning Commission inviting you to come see our stores. The invitation was extended so you could see firsthand how our locations in Costa Mesa operate in a very similar fashion to the proposed location in Bell Gardens. In Costa Mesa, we have one location that shares an alleyway with residential, very similar to this proposed location. Our Costa Mesa locations are also in close proximity to other cannabis retail locations. We have demonstrated proof of concept, and you can witness how we've beautified the location, brought security to the site, and maintained quiet enjoyment for the adjacent residents. The chair availed himself of the invitation, and I hope you can draw from his experience to help inform your discussions on our operation. We heard your comments about the light dispersion, that it could be an issue of concern. We have submitted a fully vetted photometric study as part of our project. However, just to be more proactive, we went back to our architect and light technicians and asked if there was anything else we could do. Even though we had already achieved zero light dispersion, we again redesigned the lighting to lower the poles and add additional deflection screening plates to achieve a total black zone prior to the separation wall for our residential neighbor. We had that updated report submitted and reviewed by staff. We have followed the city's instructions by conforming to the appropriate zoning, complying with the city's ordinance, and working arduously with staff to make modifications as needed. Mr. Nice Guy definitely represents a professional, community-focused business that will be a tremendous revenue generator. Therefore, we ask that you approve Mr. Nice Guy for cannabis retail at 6231 Eastern Avenue. Thank you. And I'm also available for questions.
Wow. Keep it down. Yeah. Thank you very much. We will now move over to commissioner questions or comments.
I have a question, if I may ask. The community event that happened on March 6th, was it bilingual? Or
Yes,
was it only?
Yes, we actually, the flyers, I don't know if you still had the presentation up, from the city presentation, if you want to pull that up. Just give me 1 sec. Of the 900 mailers that we sent out, the front was in English, the back was in Spanish, and 4 of the 5 staff members that we brought were all bilingual. And all of them are actually here to speak, and they can really recount to you their conversations that were specifically in Spanish.
There we go. So I do have a question. So the last meeting we were here that got canceled, right? There was, I believe the gentleman's name, or resident Edgar Morales, had
Yes.
some concerns, right?
Yes.
And since then, I guess people from your team, Matt, can you elaborate a little bit more as
Sure.
far as how that?
So it was actually a blessing in disguise. We're very thankful we had that opportunity. We had heard him speak at the first meeting, but we were unable to reach him due to his property being situated in such a way that we weren't able to approach the residents when we did our outreach. But fortunately, at the last meeting, we had an opportunity to speak with him and go over each one of his concerns. Some of the concerns that he brought up was the height of the wall. We agreed to raise the wall. We submitted new plans to demolish the entire existing wall, which isn't structurally sound, put in a new 6-foot wall with 2 feet of wrought iron. Additionally, we put in some noise canceling features for his home, as well as lowering the lights and adding additional screening elements to provide even less light dispersion. So we basically went through every single concern that he had, met with him, made sure everything was addressed, and he's actually here to speak in support of us tonight.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate
you.
that.
Absolutely.
I have a question as well. How long have you been at Costa Mesa?
Costa Mesa, we just recently opened. The one store has been open nearly a year. The second store has been open about 6 months. We've been in Santa Ana for 6 years. We have 3 stores there, or we had 3 stores there. We have 2 now. We just opened a brand new one. So.
Okay, thank you.
Upon reviewing the site in the Costa Mesa location, which
Yes.
is the one that was previously a donut shop. It's very similar in the way that, there's an alleyway and the community, the residential area is like literally a block away.
Correct.
can you talk to us a little bit more about, safety, in regards to that particular, location?
Sure.
How has, that location stimulated, safety around it?
Yeah, so I think, well, you actually walked the property and I brought you over to the one neighbor's house that we had a lot of communication with. He's kind of situated in a similar circumstances, Edgar Morales. He lives in an alleyway that is adjacent to our existing store in Costa Mesa. And I think from your own firsthand observations, you can see that the distance is even shorter than the one being proposed in Bell Gardens. Alleyway is even more compressed. They're just right on top of each other. And with that neighbor, he had a lot of reservations at first, mainly about, what was going to happen in that alleyway. Was it going to be clean? Was there going to be security? And since we've opened that store, he's again now very supportive of us. As you saw firsthand, that alleyway is clean at all times. Our guard makes sure that that property is walked 24 hours. So there's roaming security there, which he loves because now there's a lot less vagrancy in that lot. Additionally, there's been no increase in traffic, so he appreciates that concern. We did have a traffic flagger for a while and he said, nah, we don't need it. It's just not increasing the traffic impact. So every single thing that we provided has been a benefit to him. And overall, it's just been a very positive experience.
Thank you.
One more.
Of course.
Yeah, one more question. It
No
has to
problem.
do with security, obviously.
Yes.
And you mentioned a great point with the other businesses across the street, right, from the location.
Right.
Did they elaborate as far as
Yes.
crime, what type of crime they've been experiencing or?
Multiple. They had theft. So one of the issues was people jumping over the fences, breaking into their properties. We had a lengthy conversation, and one of the speakers that's here tonight, you can ask her as well, Bree, she spoke with that person directly about his property had been vandalized and there's no cameras. So he wasn't able to ascertain, the camera angles, and we ensured him that, hey, we could provide additional camera angles that would cover your property. So that way we could share that information with law enforcement to help apprehend the individuals responsible for that type of activity. The other issue was was people camping in front of the properties, leaving debris, starting fires, things like that were affecting their properties. And the biggest issue they said was having a security presence after hours. And that just doesn't exist anywhere on that block. We talked to the gentleman at the barber shop across the street. They echoed those same concerns. Tire shop across the street echoed those same concerns. Our neighbor, our business neighbor, that's a chiropractor on the other side, he echoed those same concerns. So the idea that we'll have 24-hour security with full 365 sweeping video surveillance coverage, which is monitored by a live person now, so we can have real-time access to that footage. And that can also link up to the police department if they choose to avail themselves of that opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Can you share an example where maybe at one point with any of your current locations, you may have had a crime or an issue and how you guys went about improving on your security measures or efforts? Sure.
I mean, to be honest with you, knock on wood, we haven't had any real incidents of crime. The biggest issue we have is with people that come in that are disorderly. They come in, they don't have proper identification, they want to be served. One of our security guards actually relayed a story to the chair when he was there. And I think that story is pretty illustrative of, kind of the biggest issues we've had to deal with. And really, it's just unruly customers that come in. They want to be served like an additional amount of cannabis that the law doesn't allow us to provide. So we have to tell them, hey, it's just not an option for you. There's a track and trace system, which the chair was also able to see, that shows what a limit is so that the cash register can't even ring that transaction out. And we've had to work with our guards to just kind of help them understand that, we just got to keep that flow moving towards the door when it does occur. And then they have law enforcement as a backup if they need that option. And again, knock on wood, to date, we haven't had any experiences where we had to go to that. But I will give you an example of something we did to improve. So you mentioned, or I should say the chair and I visited some of our stores with our older camera system, which doesn't really have a loud active voice support system on it. But we've upgraded that system in our newer stores where the voice is loud and booming and it comes out and it alerts the person that is trespassing or walking around on the property. with real-time voice commands that, law enforcement's been alerted. It's a very industrial strength looking camera system. So it really gives a larger presence to the security. You're welcome.
Could you talk to us more about the transaction distribution, for example, cash versus debit or card or so?
Sure. We had some conversation about that on Sunday when you visited. There is a debit card system that's allowed. We don't have full banking access. So if any of you would like to make that your next mission in life to help us with federal banking regulations, that would certainly be appreciated. We still do mostly cash transactions, but we do have that debit card feature, which is available to our customers to allow them, people who don't want to transact in cash. If you had a more specific direction, I could go there. I don't know if you have like a specific question.
Yeah, following up to that, given that, it's mainly a cash transaction.
Correct.
How does the business protect that asset? And obviously it becomes a target, of course, with such sums, being transported. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that process and
Sure.
how you guys ensure that it's safe?
Yeah, so one of the questions that came up while we were actually on our visit was like how the cash is picked up from the location. And there is a back door, there's a security door, and they only access to that back security door. The accountant who we talked about does pick up money. He only picks up small deposits to make change. But then when there's a large transaction, it's always through an armored service. And that service is through Dama Bank. They actually provide that for us. They're a third party that works with people in the cannabis industry to do the regulatory side of it, provide the cash pickups, help us out with the cash transactions. So it's a pretty secure process. Again, we've never had any issues with it, but we also like to keep some of the policy somewhat secretive so that people aren't aware of what our routines are. So we do have some intellectual property when it comes to how that process works.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I have another question.
Yes.
I want to thank you for putting the community at ease for addressing all of the security concerns that they might have.
Sure.
This question is more for the quality of life and for staff. Did we reach out to maybe, I know you're not the only dispensary in Costa Mesa, but did we reach out to the Costa Mesa Police Department to see how many reports of cannabis use in public environment were reported and like a disturbance per se? Did we reach out like that at all? If those rates went up? Because I know that there isn't really an association with having a cannabis dispensary and crime. If anything, more eyes on site lowers crime. We agree. But I'm just wondering about people's concerns, like them walking in the park, them having to put up with people smoking there. And I know that's not in your control, but did we reach out to anyone and try to find out statistics of the use? Someone buys and they want to go enjoy it right away at the local parks or anything like that? That's a question for staff.
So we did reach out to the police department. That was one of the departments that is involved in the routing of such an application. So we did get some stats back, and I'll just be pulling up those stats. Just give me one moment here.
Just to fill in some space while he's looking for that, I could share that I did provide some statistics and information to the chair regarding the Orange County Grand Jury report, as well as Costa Mesa PD calls for service and other incident reports that were received by Costa Mesa PD.
Okay, so According to the city business license records, the subject has been vacant for over 20 years, as we discussed. And based on the information provided by the police department, complaints of transients and homeless individuals have been received throughout the years. That's just as much information that was provided by the police department.
And
Thank you.
Commissioner, in terms just generally, I think your question relates to cannabis in general in other cities. Is that correct? Are you specifically looking at data from Bell Gardens?
Since we don't have a cannabis dispensary here in Bell Gardens, I would say that, yeah, other cities, and just pertaining to complaints from residents in the local area, the increase in use in their local, the public sphere.
Thank you for clarifying.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Good. If there are no more questions or comments, let's see. We will open public comments for this item. Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Sure. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 1. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. And Chairperson, there was a stack of comment cards that were already sent over to you. But let me see if is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item? If not, can you please submit your comment cards now? And the chairperson will go ahead and start calling the names on the comment cards.
All righty, can we have Ty Riley?
Hey everyone, my name is Ty Riley. I am the regional manager for Mr. Nice Guy. I wanted to speak a little bit on our community outreach. At M&G, we understand that we need to build community and build this neighborhood watch together and demonstrate that we're great neighbors. Each community has similarities, but we try to understand what's unique within these different communities and make it work. We sent our team to invite out to outreach, and we got a lot of great feedback from a lot of individuals that came to visit us, which we held on March 6th. We mailed over 1,500 feet and to over 900 addresses. In our outreach event, we featured local food vendors and restaurants there, and we answered a bunch of questions. We take great pride in our efforts, and we do what it takes to make it a good community. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Brianna Cabral?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Cabral. I worked for Mr. Nice Guy for 5 years now. Within the 5 years of working there, it's been a great experience. Mr. Nice Guy not only provides his job, but we provide safety to the community. Not only that, we are union work environment as well. A lot of employees enjoy that. I was part of the outreaches as well. We still do them. We reach out to all the local businesses. We walk door to door, answer any questions, pass out flyers, all of that good stuff. We got a lot of good feedback in the outreach. People answered all their concerning questions. A lot of their concerns were pretty much the safety around it. We'd let them know everything's prepackaged, sealed. It's just like a medical pharmacy as well. So no consumption on the premises whatsoever. That was one of their main concerns. We let them know none of that would be going on. They're really pleased and happy with that. We let them know 24-hour surveillance as well. That was one of their biggest concerns, just because they feel that honestly, one of the things that they said is the police don't react fast enough to their their calls. So they would like to have that extra security if we could call them, let them know what was going on as well. But yeah, Mr. Nice Guy has been great. We also reach out to the cities, provide all the help that we can, let them know that it is a good community as well. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, just like to ask the audience to please keep it quiet while somebody is speaking. There's a lot of background noise going on. Thank you.
Thank you. And also please refrain from, causing noise after participation is finished. Can we have James Fitzpatrick?
Jim Fitzpatrick. I'm a former chairman of the Planning Commission, just like yourself, and had to make these difficult decisions. What's really excited about this team is I believe we have exceeded all of the requirements and expectations which we demonstrate here. When we came before you, we learned that it was really important of how to achieve the balance of security and quality of life with the neighborhood. So we challenged our team to look further and deeper into our photometric study. Next. We looked at all the different things. Primarily what we did was, in talking to the most impacted neighbor here, we said, let's relocate the trash enclosure, right? Let's increase the amount of landscaping we have, which helps for noise and light screening. And then if you can go to the next slide, what we really looked at was how do we introduce not only the photometric, which demonstrate there's no light spill outside the property line, but how do we increase the landscaping here abutting that residential? And I think you'll hear today that we were successful in alleviating any concerns of the most impacted neighbor that we have. Next slide. This is a great study. So security and safety through environmental design really balances the quiet enjoyment that the residents and neighbors have with our security. And here we can demonstrate by even lowering the light poles, by putting screening and shielding around to really direct the light, we're able to achieve our security concerns without impacting the neighborhood. And I think that's very impressive. Mr. Chair, I can tell you that the old donut shop is at the end of my street. Right. This is how much I believe in this. As a former chairman of the Planning Commission, do no harm in my community. I allowed at the end of my street. If you talk to our active transportation manager, he will tell you that we activated active transportation. That's our downtown area, 100,000 cars going by. That's what we call our downtown. And he is so proud. He takes right outside, he takes the bus to City Hall. And so he sees all the people using the bike rack. He recognizes that our parking isn't impacted because we've been able to activate our community and walk. I can tell you from a crime perspective, our chief of police has published a study and given testimony in front of city council that says, you know what, council just even last night was considering modifications to the ordinance, and they didn't escalate some of the potential regulatory schemes that they have. If you look at the Orange County Grand Jury, they studied the impact of Santa Ana dispensaries. You know what they determined? Crime went down. And it makes sense. The lighting, the influence, the 24-hour, the circulation from a property that has had nothing to this. I encourage you to vote yes on this. The neighbor's gonna tell you that he's in support of it. With your approval, he will get all of these improvements that if you say no, somebody can do it by right and he wouldn't benefit from all this stuff. So good luck with your decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can we have Patrick Martin?
Good evening, Planning Commission and staff. I've been with Mr. Nice Guy for over 9 years as a director. I'm very excited about the opportunity to be a business partner with the City of Bell Gardens. Everything about this project has been intentionally conceived to be a value addition to the community. We picked the specific site because we know the brand new renovation will represent a high-level beautification project, enhancing property value and eliminating blight. I would like to highlight some core values that the company represents and will deliver to your city. One would be job growth. The legal cannabis industry is a significant job creator. Mr. Nice Guy will bring new employment opportunities to your community, boosting the local economy. We will work in collaboration with the city to host local job fairs. It is our goal to achieve 100% local staffing, and we also partner with a local union here as well. Increased tax revenue through licensing fees, the development agreement, and sales taxes. Ms. Naska will contribute additional revenue to your town. These funds can be used to support important public services and infrastructure improvements. Safety and regulated access. A licensed dispensary provides a safe and controlled environment for adults to access cannabis. This can help to reduce illegal activity and protect consumers from unregulated products. The unregulated market exists and thrives in all communities, regardless of efforts to intercede. Therefore, Mr. Nice Guy will provide a nice, safe location for product for those adults choosing to consume legally. We also have a community first approach. Mr. Nice Guy is a community enhancement oriented business. We work in partnership with our business neighbors to achieve success. We also look to be problem solvers and find ways to make our presence bring value to those around us. Mr. Nice Guy has a strong commitment to responsible business practices. I am confident we will be a responsible member of your community and prioritize the safety and well-being of your residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Conrad Gunderson?
Hello, Commissioners. As I stand before you today, I'm filled with an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. Working for a cannabis company has nothing short of extraordinary. Every day, I'm surrounded by a team of passionate individuals who are dedicated to the cause of promoting wellness and elevating the lives of others through the power of cannabis. Working in human resources for a cannabis company for the past 5 years has been incredibly fulfilling experience. Not only do I have a chance to recruit and witness employees' development, but we also contribute to fostering a culture of diversity, innovation, and social responsibility. What makes working for a cannabis company truly special is the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. We are not just selling products, we are changing lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Chase Crichton?
Hello, Commission, Chase Creighton, Special Project Union Representative for UFCW 324. A quick personal statement. Mr. Nice Guy has worked very voluntarily with the union. As someone who has worked in the cannabis shop and tried to unionize with that shop, it didn't go as smoothly. And with Mr. Nice Guy, they have worked super easily and voluntarily with the union to make it as easy as possible. And I also have a statement from Andrea Zinder, a letter from the international president of UCW. To the Bell Gardens Planning Commission, as you deliberate the issuance of a cannabis business permit, UCW Local 324 would like to firmly advocate for Mr. Nice Guy's distinction as a compliant employer that will help the city of Bell Garden fulfill its commitment to providing quality jobs. We have a productive working relationship with Mr. Nice Guy dispensaries in the city of Santa Ana, where we represent the company's employees. In an emerging industry fraught with inconsistencies, UFCW can testify that Mr. Nice Guy has managed to distinguish themselves as a quality employer that complies with the city rules and regulations wherever they establish themselves. The company continues to setting the bar for what a good cannabis employer is by creating numerous high quality and high paying jobs with the collective bargaining agreements that further enhance the quality of life in its host cities. Because of this, Mr. Nice Guy creates strong and lasting relationships fruitful to the communities they operate in. Mr. Nice Guy operations will be an asset to the city that will reinforce Bell Gardens' retail sector as the city continues putting in its best foot forward. We greatly appreciate you taking your support for Mr. Nice Guy into consideration. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Derek Smith, and we have an email and number for you guys. I can also drop this letter off to you as well. And that's from Matt Bell, Secretary, and Andrea's in it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Can we have Raven Mesa?
Hello, my name is Rev Mesa and I'm here to support Mr. Nice Guys. I am currently a customer and I travel all the way to the Santa Ana shop. We need a legal cannabis shop local. We know that the product is safe for our for our consuming. We know the ingredients and we have no worries about our safety. As opposed to our loved ones are buying off of people that are selling on the streets because we don't have no legal cannabis shops around here. So I'm supporting Mr. Nice Guys. Thank you.
Can we have Jennifer Flores come up?
Good evening. I'm also a customer and I have a medical condition, of course, that I use Mr. Nice Guys for consumption. I feel really safe there. And as a woman, that's very important for me. I also feel that they're very transparent as well with their ingredients, which I can appreciate. So I would like for you guys to consider them to come to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Raymond Priest?
Good afternoon. My name is Raymond Priest. I discovered Mr. Nice Guy one day on my way to chemo treatment in Santa Ana. I'm a cancer survivor, and I believe in the product, and it helped me get through my sickness at the time of need. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Cassie Jimeno?
Hello, my name is Cassie Jimeno. I've been working at Mr. Nice Guy for almost 3 years now. I started as an assistant manager and got the opportunity to move up as a store manager. My experience working at Marketplace by Mr. Nice Guy, I've noticed they take pride on their ethical business practices, ensuring transparency, integrity, and respect for customers and employees. We did become unionized or in January, beginning of this year, and have been committed to fair labor practices, better wages for employees, and we enhance job security for the employees as well, fostering positive and supportive workplace environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can we have Nayana Handa?
Good evening, esteemed members of the City Council. My name is Nayana Honda, and I am the General Manager of the Mr. Nice Guy store in Santa Ana. I'm honored to represent Mr. Nice Guy, a global cannabis leader known for its ethical practices, compliance, and professionalism. We prioritize sustainability, fair treatment of our workforce, community engagement, and fostering a sense of belonging within our stores. As a predominantly unionized organization, we ensure fair wages, benefits, and a supportive work environment. Our commitment extends to upholding high ethical standards and fostering positive relationships as we expand into new cities and states. At Mr. Nice Guy, professionalism is paramount in every aspect of our operations, ensuring that we serve customers and communities with the utmost respect and integrity. Thank you for considering Mr. Nice Guy's dedication to ethical business practices, community impact, and professionalism. We look forward to making a meaningful contribution to your community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Can we have Maple Amadian?
Hello, my name is Mabel and I'm an employee at one of the Santa Ana locations. Mr. Nice Guy really strives to create a fair and safe environment for their employees and their customers. I've worked at several other cannabis companies and I didn't feel like they really cared about the employees or even the customers. It was more just about money, but I feel like with Mr. Nice Guy, it's different. They really care about the community. It's the first company I feel that genuinely values their workers as well. I think it will really benefit the community, basically creating jobs. They have great benefits. Like everyone mentioned before, we're part of the union, which I really like. I haven't had that opportunity before in the cannabis industry. Yeah, so I've had a great experience so far, and I do think it would be beneficial to Bell Gardens. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Can we have Ivan Gonzalez?
Hello, I'm Ivan Gonzalez and I'm an employee here at Mr. Nice Guy. I just want to say that Mr. Nice Guy does not just look out for their employees, but they also look out for their customers by always having protection, such as a great security team, always there on the premises, even if the we're not even in operation hours. And I just want to say that I think it will benefit us by bringing more jobs. I'm a resident of Downey, and for me to commute out there, it'll be way better to come out here to commute and bring jobs to our well, Bell Gardens and the community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Can we have Fernanda Ledesma?
Hello, my name is Fernanda. I am here representing Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm going to be doing it in Spanish as well today. Hola, estoy aquí representando a Mr. Nice Guy. Mi nombre es Fernanda Ledesma. Hoy aquí tengo un año con la compañía. Una de las razones por que personalmente yo pienso que ayudaría a la comunidad es que Mr. Nice Guy es pro-union, queriendo decir que ofrece contratos de unión para los empleados y teniendo esa garantía de seguridad de trabajo sin tener miedo que nos despiden por cualquier cosa, que para mí es algo muy importante. Y también ha trabajado de otras compañías de unión y personalmente yo creo que abajo de esta ha tenido la mejor experiencia de todos los trabajos que ha tenido. Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you. Can we have Gina Joy Bradley?
Hello, my name is Gina Bradley. I work at Mr. Nice Guy in Santa Ana as assistant manager. Mr. Nice Guy is an amazing company to work for. Working in this growing and expanding company has provided me with job stability, which keeps me motivated to go to work. Mr. Nice Guy makes me feel safe because they've created a good and healthy work environment for all of their workers, and they offer us learning opportunities and offer us many areas for growth. Being that Mr. Nice Guy is a union job with benefits, it provides me and everyone I work with job security, which overall provides a positive ripple effect in all areas. Thank you for all your time and consideration.
Thank you. Can we have Anthony Olmedo?
Good afternoon, esteemed commissioners. Thank you for your time today. My name is Anthony Olmedo, and I'm an assistant manager at Marketplace by Mr. Nice Guy. And one thing I can say for sure would be that working for this company has been nothing short of a blessing. Being someone who's had to do under the table work in cannabis for years, Mr. Nice Guy has definitely provided security and peace of mind that many individuals in the industry have been seeking. It provides progress and change and bringing the community together. The company, first and foremost, has opened up many jobs for people with its own health benefits and incentives, along with even things like sick pay, paid time leave. Our store is even unionized, which also provides its own set of benefits for employees. In my youth, these are things I never thought I'd be able to witness in this kind of context because cannabis has always had negative connotations associated with it. But with Mr. Nice Guy, it helps take away that stigma by being an official establishment that provides real information and legitimate help and creates an opening for more people to thrive and succeed in a whole different field of work that didn't exist before. We also really try to embody the name of our company, Mr. Nice Guy, by doing just that, always being friendly and informative and, of course, nice to our customers, because we don't just see them as customers. We see them as our patients who have real health issues and concerns. And our company gives an alternate form of healthcare that conventional medicines that are prescribed to us. The patients we help also feel a form of peace of mind and comfort because they know they're shopping at an official, legal, by-the-book business that always puts the people first and creates a safe, welcoming environment for everyone above all else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can we have Jenny Reyes?
Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Reyes. I'm a local here, and I'm here to support Mr. Nice Guy. As a mother, I would like to be able to purchase safe cannabis in a legal shop where I know that it's safe. And I feel like it would actually be good for the economy here. And I support Mr. Nice Guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Edgar Morales?
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm here to just to update the commission from the last meeting that was canceled last month. So since that last meeting, the applicant, owner Mike Ng, and with his attorney Chris Clue, we got together to address some of the concerns that we have with my family regarding regarding the opening of this shop in relations to where we live, where we currently are right next door to the proposed site. In our discussion, I addressed safety, health and welfare, plus our quality of life. They took the time to listen, to come up with other or offer solutions or explanations to our concerns. So regarding the safety, the applicant agreed that that current wall is way too short to move forward. So they agreed they would demolish and add an additional 2 feet of wrought iron. So for our family safety. They also said that they could look into, with the help of the city, installing ballards so that the parking spaces on the site plan 9 through 14, those would be a safety measure in case someone were to lose control of their vehicle. Our bedroom windows are right next to that wall. They discussed the 24-hour security guard, installation of cameras both inside and out. Regarding the topic of our health and welfare, specifically with the smell of cannabis, both day and night, they discussed and that the product comes sealed, and they also have a filtration system in place inside of the shop. Regarding quality of life, they also address issues regarding the parking lot, which they already spoke of, which is the photometric rendering. I really appreciated that. They offered us also to explain guidelines regarding deliveries of the product, whether it's going to be in the late hours of the night or early morning. They said under the rules and regulations, it has to be during regular business hours. So that's just good to know because of an inconvenience of hearing deliveries be done at that hours. And then the applicant stated that they have an excellent record with their other locations, with their neighbors, their community. They assured us they would like to continue that with us here. And they also stressed that if any issues were to arise, we're free to talk to them. Mr. Nice Guy and we have a memorandum of understanding that we did as civil parties. And I appreciate the fact that they took the time to listen to our concerns and also made an attempt to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Marta Carrasco?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Marta Carrasco. Yo vivo en esta ciudad, tengo más de 50 años viviendo en esta ciudad. Nunca hemos tenido ninguna clase de negocio de esa categoría. Ahora, yo escuché en las noticias de Costa Mesa que desde que pusieron esos negocios hasta la actualidad ha subido el crimen bastante en esa ciudad. Ahora, nosotros en esta ciudad tenemos muy pocos oficiales, muy pocos departamento de policía que no puede en caso de que vengan esos negocios y empiece el crimen a subir bastante. ¿De dónde vamos a sacar para que atiendan a tantos problemas que va a haber? Ahora, yo he visto documentales que actualmente están naciendo los niños ahorita, todos acelerados, hyper, y con unos con unas enfermedades, otras con otras, porque los jóvenes matrimonios están tomando drogas que empieza por la marihuana, de ahí se van a otras drogas más elevadas y están naciendo muchos niños con diferentes enfermedades. En eso, estas compañías no están pensando en los niños que están naciendo actualmente bien malitos. Esos niños de aquí a 20 años, ¿qué va a pasar? Porque no están bien. El gobierno va a tener que pagarles a los padres para que cuiden esos jóvenes que que están naciendo actualmente bastantes malitos. Tengo una amiga que trabaja en estos donde cuidan a los niños chiquitos y ella me dice que sale cansada porque esos niños están súper hiperactivos y que le dijo su supervisora que de aquí en adelante va a haber puros niños enfermitos y en eso no piensan algunas personas, en lo que viene. Siempre hay que pensar en lo pro y en lo contra cuando se va a hacer una solución. Y yo espero que ustedes nos apoyen y no acepten estos negocios, por favor. Esos negocios que tienen ahí, yo conozco los propietarios. Mañana yo voy a ir a hablar con ellos a ver si están de acuerdo, si es verdad que están de acuerdo en que vengan estos negocios. Yo no estoy de acuerdo. Estamos viviendo muy a gusto sin esos negocios. Gracias.
We have Rosario Luna.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rosario Luna. Vivo desde 1986. A todos aquí presentes. Tengo niños en custodia legal. He rescatado niños que han nacido con droga en la sangre desde el vientre de la madre. Han tenido experiencia con droga y no saben lo difícil que ha sido para mí y lo muy triste tener que tener un recién nacido que viene con el síntoma de droga en la sangre. La marihuana por siempre y como todos ustedes, como señores aquí presentes, saben muy bien que la marihuana desde hace muchos años es una droga. Y ha habido contrabando de droga. Así que no nos vengan a decir que no es. Bell Gardens es una ciudad muy pequeña. Tenemos muchas escuelas. ¿De dónde van a poner esas tiendas? ¿Por qué Bell Gardens? ¿Porque somos latinos? ¿O porque nos ven la cara de pobres o tenemos la cara de ignorantes? Porque todos los aquí presentes, las personas que vienen con ellos, no viven en Bell Gardens, excepto una que se presentó ahorita. Nadie es residente de Bell Gardens. Todos son empleados de ellos. Nosotros somos dueños de Bell Gardens. Nacimos aquí. Esta es la casa de mis niños. Esta es mi casa. Yo pago mis impuestos. Yo no quiero esas tiendas aquí. Ustedes no saben lo que hemos tenido que trabajar con los niños adictos a las drogas. Tenemos muchos homeless. Hemos tenido que trabajar con ellos, vigilar nuestra ciudad, vigilar nuestras calles. Que no me vengan a decir a mí, droga es droga. Marihuana es marihuana. Y si no, váyanse al pasado. ¿Cuánta marihuana se transportó desde México para Estados Unidos? Entonces, creo que no estamos ignorantes de todo eso. Que nos quieran ver la cara a los señores, a mí no me compran con comida. Perdón, pero no me regalan comida. Yo trabajo para ganarme la comida. Comprar a mi gente con comida gratis en un parque, porque la gente, no es cierto, yo nunca recibí una sola carta notificándome que se van a poner tiendas aquí. ¿En qué momento nos mandaron una carta? Pregúntenles, porque muchos de mis vecinos jamás hemos recibido una carta. Hemos oído de las juntas, pero no recibimos carta. Que se nos hagan saber de esto. Yo soy una mamá y yo vengo aquí porque no estoy de acuerdo. He estado luchando por mis niños, he estado luchando contra las drogas. Alejandro, tengo niños campeones de baile que les hicieron honores aquí en el City Hall. ¿Para qué? ¿Para que los hagamos adictos a las drogas? No, señores, que no nos engañen, porque eso es droga.
Can I have Terry Camacho?
Hi, my name is Carrie Camacho. I'm a resident here in Bell Gardens. I've been living here for 8 years. And I support Mr. Nice Guy, and I also support cannabis as long as it's properly regulated, creates union jobs and brings revenue to our community and safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Silvestre Noyola?
Hello, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm here to say I heard everything so nice about Mr. Nice Guy. But when a community is calling the news to come and see the crime, how much the crime has increased in Costa Mesa, I think it was February that I heard this news that people were so concerned, all the residents that live in that city, getting together to saying that they were gonna put like a neighborhood watch program, because I don't think if they have one yet right now, but they were so concerned and so pissed off about how much the crime had increased in that city. And this was on February that I heard this, a couple of months ago. I mean, when you call the news to come and to your city, it's because something big is going on. So I don't want that for our city to happen, because, the crime, people don't care for the residents in the area, in the city. All they want is satisfy their, what they want to, and that's why, I'm against that. But yeah, I don't want the news to come in here in this city because the crime has increased and this and that. So estoy preocupado por el crimen, cómo ha aumentado. Digo, en la ciudad de Costa Mesa, cómo aumentó el crimen, y no quiero que eso pase aquí en la ciudad de Bell Gardens. So, por favor, tomen eso en consideración. Gracias.
Gracias. Thank you. Can we have Marta Cabral?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Marta Cabral y tengo más de 30 años siendo residente de aquí de Bell Gardens, y vengo a motivarlos y a que investiguen más, a que no pongan estos negocios en nuestra comunidad. Ya tenemos suficientes con el vaping o con las tiendas que aparentemente tienen otro nombre. Si ustedes se dan cuenta, ellos trajeron todo su staff para hablar con ustedes. A ustedes como comisionados de aquí de Bell Gardens, a Ernesto nada más escuché decir que van a investigar más. Yo los convoco a que investiguen más acerca de lo que viene, de lo que va a pasar en nuestra comunidad. Ya tenemos suficiente con la gente indigente. Ese flyer que pusieron ahí, yo no lo recibí y vivo en la Cecilia y la Easter. O sea, si te fijas en el flyer, si hubieran dicho, los esperamos aquí para hablar de que vamos a hablar un dispensario de drogas, de marihuana, hubieras visto cómo hubiera salido la comunidad. Pero si ustedes como comisionados miran lo que en realidad dice el flyer en inglés y en español, se van a dar cuenta de que ese flyer no salió. Y como te digo, vivo en la Easter y en la Cecilia. La otra cosa es de cómo los negocios apoyaron porque les convienen las cámaras, pero como te digo, tengo 30 años viviendo aquí, mañana vamos el grupo a visitar esos negocios que dicen que apoyaron, pero por favor, como comisionados, investiguen más las estadísticas que hay en las ciudades donde están estos negocios para que vean cuáles son los resultados. No queremos más a nuestros estudiantes cuando caminan por las calles de que les ofrezca más fácil la marihuana. Otra, todos los que tienen enfermedad, así como buscamos nosotros las farmacias cuando nos enfermamos, así que busquen donde hay dispensarios, pero no aquí en nuestra ciudad. Así es que como comisionados, Mr. de la Rosa, que eres el presidente, por favor, investiguen más y no estoy de acuerdo a que traigan dispensarios más a nuestra ciudad. Que ya con lo que tenemos a escondidas, que es vaping, y dentro del vaping ya saben lo que va. No ocupo dar más explicaciones, pero si tú pasaste por todas nuestras escuelas, conoces nuestra comunidad, sabes que esto va a traer más riesgos más riesgos colaterales. Y como te digo, la verdad no está en lo que están informando, porque ese flyer no salió. Las tiendas vamos a caminar negocio por negocio para ver en qué manera apoyaron a que en realidad se haga esta tienda. Así es que estoy aquí para decir no a ningún dispensario más. Con lo que hay, vamos a ver cómo lo navegamos como residentes. Y si en realidad todos son residentes de aquí de Bell Gardens, por favor, digan no a estos dispensarios. Vamos a seguir trabajando nosotros como residentes de comunidad a que no lleguen estas tiendas más. Ya con lo que hay, vamos a ver cómo trabajamos juntos, porque vean los policías, tenemos 3 al día. No es suficiente policía para estar vigilando todo eso. En lugar de preguntar cómo ellos van a estar seguros de cómo van a llevarse el dinero y eso, cómo es su ambiente de la tienda, pregúntense cómo vamos a estar de aquí a unos 5 años. Si quieren nuevos trabajos, traigan nuevos negocios para nuestros miembros, gracias, de la comunidad.
Gracias, Marta. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation.
Chairperson, if I may, I just wanted to make sure there's no one in the chat line that was wishing to speak on this item before we close the public hearing. If there's anyone in the chat line that would like to speak on this item, if you can go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay. Chairperson, it looks like there's no one in the chat line that would like to speak. I also did want to mention that we did receive one email comment today, as well as several email comments that we received prior to the Wednesday, March 20th Planning Commission meeting that was canceled. And these email comments were distributed to the Planning Commission.
And if I may, Chair, and those comments will also be added to the administrative record of the case.
That is correct.
Thank you, Planning Secretary. Thank you, Lloyd. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. Objections? Any questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
First and foremost, I would like to thank each and every one of you for commenting on this topic. It speaks volumes when both community members and applicants and their staffing come over to discuss, the product or the comment or the suggestions or the concerns. So I thank each and every one of you. We understand that this is a very delicate subject, right? And as a commissioner under planning, we must do our due diligence when it comes to the land use that an applicant brings forth to the table. We understand that city staff does their due diligence in return to make sure that when it's being brought up, that it's covering all grounds, right? All codes, all rules and laws and regulations and ordinances, and the list goes on and on. So from the last time we've met the applicant, they've stressed a lot of these areas of concern. And today, they even brought to the table modifications when it comes to security and safety measures, right? We've heard from the customers, from employees, and even from union. I understand that there's a lot of accountability measures in place for that the applicant must forego, not just now, but for ongoing years that they plan on being here, right? So we must take into consideration that. And lastly, I liked when I heard that they're doing local hiring. Now, I don't recall the percentage that they were planning on, but that's huge. And that's always a plus in my book when it comes to local hiring. Again, I know that this product is a very delicate subject matter, but as an advisory under the Planning Commission, this was set forth based on our governor, where they've allowed cannabis retail shops to be more allowed in various cities here in California. With that being said, I hear more pros than cons, and I move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendez. Any other questions or comments from the commission? If not, may I have a motion in regards to this item?
I actually have a question, comment, if I may. So I want to, acknowledge the local community and their concerns. I have two small children, in months and 5 years. And I also agree that, it's not ideal for us to think that they're going to be, more exposed or doing these type of medicinal drugs earlier than expected, or because they're more exposed to it. But I think that largely these are the things that us as parents we're supposed to be addressing these things. It's our responsibility to address that, and hopefully we guide them in the right direction so that they do they grow up in an ideal way. But these are businesses that are already established, they're already exposed to it. Them being here in the community doesn't prevent them from being more or less exposed that they can hide from it, they can not hide from it, but this business is here. And I don't think that, us having an establishment here in Bell Gardens is going to stop them from being exposed to this. So I just wanted, that to be, I want to acknowledge this local community and, let them know that we hear them and we make these decisions, not easily, but we take it, everything into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendez. Ramirez, sorry. If there's any question.
Yeah, I was
or
just gonna
comment.
just piggyback on what the rest of the commissioner said. It's a delicate, sensitive subject, right? But one thing I was really concerned as well is when I first read Mr. Edgar Morales' statement, but I'm glad that got taken care of because that was one of my concerns, and that's good to hear. And for the rest of the residents here, my family's been here since the 70s. A lot of my family, like I would say, like 11 different families came from Mexico in the 70s. Crime was high here in Bell Gardens, like horrible, even in the 80s. And it got better, but due to basically, COVID-19 stuff and just the rising crime, it's horrible everywhere. I fly out to work everywhere. Unfortunately, I have to go to Oakland to work, where we got a letter basically that we're going to have security, and that has nothing to do with drugs. It's just the crime is just horrible right now. And it's horrible here in Bell Gardens too, which has nothing to do with drugs sometimes. But that's my concern, crime. But even on top of that, I think we should definitely, not here, but there should be a focus in crime, basically. Not only here in Bell Gardens, but just everywhere. Even I work in Pasadena as well. Crime is just up right now. It's just out of control. But with that said, I do love the fact that it's a union shop as well. I used to be a union member myself, especially in these tough times right now. It's difficult even getting a job or benefits. There's people that don't have benefits right now at all. And I'm in the healthcare industry, so I know how difficult it is to get good healthcare right now. And yeah, safety was covered. And another thing that was mentioned, right? Possible local jobs, because people are really hurting out there. And to the point with working with other businesses as well, I see a lot of businesses closing as well. So yeah, that's all I have. And thank you for mentioning that about your children, right? Because I have my nephews that come visit. I take care of my parents. So that's a big concern for me as well, but just educating yourself and working with our police department as well at the end of the day. So thank you.
I wanted to ask the chair his experience visiting the site and his feedback.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendez. And also thank you to Mr. Glue and Mr. Sean, who were, very transparent in giving me the tour of the both facilities, off the charts, and Mr. Nice Guy. They were very open about sharing the way the sales floor operates, check-in process, as well as the back-end operations and the logistical details and regulations that must be met, when taking inventory or capturing a transaction. I thought that was all very insightful. Again, in regards to the Mr. Nice Guy location in Costa Mesa, it turned out to be quite similar to the concern that we had from our resident, Edgar. I've had several conversations with Edgar as well in regards to the location where the dumpster was proposed, and also lighting. And overall, I'm pleased to see that Mr. Nice Guy has been able to work and communicate with our concerned resident here. I think that was a great way to address those concerns. And I hope to see more collaborations such as these, with the community, as you guys, have all have mentioned in, in public comment. That has been my experience with the tours. Other than that, Mr. Glue shared some details in regards to the safety in the Orange County area. I think it'd be great if we could also look into that, have our public safety, increased as well. We have some great comments from our folks here who mentioned that, security is, the number one concern. And, I think it's all about having that communication, strengthened with our police department and our neighborhood watch as well. But other than that, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming forward and sharing your concerns and experiences.
Sorry, one last thing too. I just want to make sure, because I think there's a confusion as well, because the city council adopted an ordinance already, 934, is that correct? And I think there's a confusion with that because it was approved already. There you go.
So the ordinance that was adopted a couple of years ago was the ordinance to regulate cannabis use, to allow it to create a procedure for approving it. So I think that's what's referred to in the staff report. As far as the ordinance that's going to be approved, the number 3 in the Planning Commission action, if there's a motion to approve, it will be to approve the 3 actions that are in the staff report. So the third one refers to a city council ordinance. That's because, so that will be a Planning Commission resolution to recommend approval of a city council ordinance, and that's approving something called a development agreement. So the development agreement is part of the entitlement for the cannabis business, and it's basically a contract between the business and the city, and it sets forth all kinds of terms, and only the council can approve a contract like that. So that's why item 3 is merely a recommendation.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure residents are clear regarding that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the Planning Commission? If not, the table's open for a motion.
Chairperson, I just wanted to make note for the record that we closed the public hearing at 6:46.
Correct, yes, 6:46.
And you may now entertain a motion.
A motion to approve, item 1.
I second.
Thank you very much. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Do we need to, do you want them to specify?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you, Commission Secretary. I just wanted to clarify, your motion is to move forward with staff recommendations 1 through 3, correct?
That's correct. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I will now go ahead and conduct a roll call. Commissioner Boada,
Yes.
Commissioner Leon is absent. Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yeah, yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yeah, and after a thorough review of the general plan, zoning ordinances, the staff's in-depth report, and specific cannabis ordinance, I have found no grounds to deny the conditional use permit and development agreements in question. So my answer is yes.
Therefore, the motion is 4-0. Motion passes.
And for the record, the last day to appeal this item is May 2nd, 5:00 PM.
Okay, we will now begin with item number 2 on the agenda. At this time, I will open public hearing at 6:48 PM.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Adrian Flores, Associate Planner with the City of Val Gardens Community Development Department, Planning Division. And this presentation is to discuss the proposed development agreement and conditional use permit 2023-067, a tenant improvement at 5605 Gage Avenue for the development of an off-the-charts cannabis retail storefront. It is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission, 1, find the project categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to state CEQA guidelines. 2, adopt Resolution PC 2024-04, approving conditional use permit 2023-067 to authorize the proposed cannabis retail use storefront at 5605 Gage Avenue. And lastly, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to authorizing to enter into and execute a development agreement.
Mr.
to
Flores,
establish-
if you could hold on a second. To the general public, we can hear you loudly, so if you could please keep it down to a whisper, or if you need to speak, if you could please go outside. Thank you. Continue the report.
So 3, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance authorizing to enter into and execute a development agreement to establish certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. At the February 21st public hearing, commissioners requested added information. The information they requested is a brief background on the history of the matter within the region. Second, if a higher rate of return for anticipated percentages of sales could be negotiated and whether funds received in exchange for vested development rights could be used for programs that address homelessness. Third, identify projected revenue lot breakdown and comparative cannabis retail rates of return from neighboring cities. And lastly, track and trace for accountability measures. A little bit more on the background. On June 26, 2023, the City Council adopted ordinance number 934, amending Title 9 to conditionally permit with additional development agreement option cannabis retail uses in commercial zones and amend BGMC Title 5 to add licensing and permit requirements for cannabis retail businesses. With ordinance 934, the City Council adopted a 10% of gross receipt of sales rate and an annual $100,000 public benefit fee in exchange for a 5-year development agreement with an option to extend for another 5 years for a total of a 10-year term. Any exchange from the 10% rate and 10-year term would require recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council in the form of an amendment to the ordinance 934. As of 2023, 238 out of 539 municipalities in California, or 44.2%, allow at least one type of commercial cannabis activity. The legal and regulated cannabis retail market is currently operating in at least 213 municipalities across the state. Los Angeles County has 88 incorporated cities. Of that, 23 allow some sort of cannabis sales. There are currently 7 active applications under varying states of review or negotiation, and 2 are being presented this evening. There are no overlaps of 500 feet with any of the applications as noted in the service radius map. There is a 550-foot distance between 6231 Eastern Avenue and 5605 Gage. 6231 Eastern Avenue is Mr. Nice Guys and 5605 Gage is off the charts. The state's DCC regulations imposed increased track and trace requirements to regulate cannabis product inventory. The California Cannabis Track and Trace System is a record-keeping system using software with unique identifiers for reporting the movement of cannabis and cannabis products through the licensed commercial cannabis distribution chain. Pursuant to California Code of Regulations Title 4, Section 15051, all cannabis retailers are required to keep account of all inventories. Should any discrepancies be noted, the license must be reported to the DCC pursuant. This track and trace system provides substantial support for accountability. Every licensee must keep and maintain records in with the licensed commercial cannabis business. These records pertain to the sales, staff, and contracting activities. The project as proposed will not result in more impacts than other retail uses and cannot be discriminated for the sale of cannabis alone. Conditions of approval, including but not limited hours of operation and security requirements, have been placed on these uses, as with other entitlements like alcohol and certain sensitive retail uses. Sensitive uses include parks, youth centers, daycares, school, and do not include primarily residential uses, sites, buildings, or structures. With this presentation, staff recommends the Planning Commission take the following action. First, determine that the project is categorically exempt from the CEQA based on the common sense exemption and the existing facilities exemption. Second, adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit authorizing tenant improvements to 2,486 square feet space of an existing commercial building and operation of a cannabis retail use at the subject site. And lastly, adopt a resolution recommending to the City Council approval of an ordinance authorizing the city to enter and execute a development agreement to establish certain development rights for up to 10 years in exchange for certain public benefits. The applicant is present this evening to share a prepared presentation during the public hearing testimony time allotted for the proposed project proponent. Staff are available for any questions from the commission. Thank you. I'll take care of it for you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sean Maddox. I'm here on behalf of OTC Bell Gardens LLC. I'd like to thank staff for their report and the recommendation. Off the Charts is a family-owned and operated cannabis business. We're a premier cannabis retailer who focus on retail as opposed to many of the vertically integrated operators in this space. We currently have operational locations throughout California, as well as with locations out of state opening in New Mexico, New Jersey, Ohio, Michigan, and Mississippi. In California, we've got locations in Vista, Winter Haven, Palm Springs, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Corona, Santa Rosa, West Hollywood, Sacramento, and Costa Mesa. Next slide, please. The subject site at 5605 East Gage Avenue is pretty ideally situated for a cannabis retail use. We have ingress and egress off of Gage as well as the alleyway, both entrances and exits on 2 different locations on the alleyway, and then a single entrance and a single exit off of Gage. The proposed dispensary is about 2,500 square feet, which fits right into kind of our ideal space needs for a cannabis retailer. We are leaving 3,500 square feet of the current building to Megamart, who's going to continue their operations and hopefully benefit from our presence, not only in terms of increased economics, but also increased security presence. The site has 20 parking spots. We're overparked by 4, so we're 25% over what's required. And then I think kind of one of the most interesting things that was mentioned in staff's initial report and worth going over with regards to the site. The project does propose the removal of a recycling center, which is in the bottom left of the site diagram here. That recycling center has received over 18 service calls over the past 4 years for criminal activity. That criminal activity includes robbery, theft, vandalism, transient activity, as well as narcotic activity. So very minimally, approval of this project would remove a current nuisance in addition to adding increased security measures for the neighbors, as well as the grocery store neighboring business. Next slide, please. This slide is just an overview of the proposed retail floor plan. It's a pretty standard dispensary. As chairperson saw, most of our dispensaries kind of have a similar outline and layout. We've got a secure check-in, which is adjacent to the lobby, which allows our security staff to check in individuals before they enter the retail space. We have a general retail space, which you see is in the light gray. And then we have in the dark gray what we call our limited access area. This is where staff and vendors, third-party operators are only allowed in there. You'll see we have the fortune of kind of a long hallway here that abuts our security check-in that allows us to actually use our secure check-in team to also vet vendors before entering the space. Back of house typically includes a vault, office, storage, as well as employee areas. Next slide, please. These are just some renderings of the design inspiration for the proposed improvements of the overall property. As you can see, we contemplate repainting the exterior facade, probably doing some restuccoing. And then, it's our plans that through some outreach, we can talk with neighbors as well as the city and maybe get a mural on one of the sides of the exteriors of the building. Next slide, please. I'm going to wrap up with community integration and security. I think these are the most important things. These came out a lot within the comments against the project earlier, as well as the projects for. Cannabis, I think, has a huge stigma around it. And because of that, we've had to work extra hard as an industry to make sure that we are good neighbors and that we do institute good neighbor policies. Like Mr. Nice Guy, almost every city we come into, we do outreach. We did door-to-door outreach prior to the initial hearing. We plan on, after this, if approved, having at least 2 more events prior to opening, which would invite neighbors in, hopefully even source some employees, but to get feedback on our operations as they're developing the site, as well as to hold an open house for all surrounding neighbors to come see the dispensary before it's open, before it's stocked, to see the floor plan, to see the layout, to meet our security team, to meet our owners, and just ensure, not only prior to approval today, but prior to actually opening, that we're speaking with community members. In addition to that, we do focus on local hiring. We anticipate around $500,000 in local wages at this location. While 100% local hiring is probably impossible, we do aim to have at least 75% or higher, and we have achieved that in all the stores that we're operating currently. In terms of tax benefits, we're looking at probably $500,000 in tax benefits, up to $1 million based off of the development agreement. We do also do employee volunteer and a lot of just kind of general community benefit stuff, including food drives, park cleanups, compassion events. I think we're having one this week up in San Francisco where we donate product to individuals. I'll end up, because I guess my time's here, but I just want to end up by saying, we believe that this is not only a conforming use, but an ideal use. We appreciate staff recommendation. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Sean, do you have any more information that you would like to share with us? I know that the timer did cut off before the
Yeah, I mean, probably just a little bit in response to some of the stuff that's already been brought up today by the public as well as you guys. I know a question was asked by one of the commissioners earlier about, has anything happened to any of your stores that's forced you to change your security protocols? We did have an attempted break-in in Palm Springs, which involved a vehicle trying to drive into our retail storefront. This has actually become common practice in the industry. I think there was a rash of over 10 of those events in Los Angeles last year. As you'll see with our site plans, all of our stores now, and chairperson saw at our store in Costa Mesa, every store we design has bollards in front to prevent that. We have a hardened exterior to make sure that there's no incentive to do that. Additionally, similar security measures that we've implemented is BayGuard Live. It was mentioned by Mr. Nice Guy earlier, but it's a great surveillance system where essentially when anybody's coming on site, we don't even need to send a guard out to initiate them. We've got a live audio feed that allows us to speak to them, say, hey, you're trespassing, police will be called. It's actually preferable to go that way than to have a guard because oftentimes person-on-person interaction will escalate. We have robust security procedures for all of our stores. All of the things mentioned by Mr. Nice Guys. We've got indoor, outdoor, closed circuit TV cameras, facial recognition capability inside, license plate reading outside. This assists with neighboring businesses and just the general area with deterring crime. And I think just probably another important thing is general stimulation of the local economy. I know a lot's been talked about local jobs. An anecdote that was shared with me this week, we're planning a 420 event for one of our stores, and one of the adjacent businesses actually surrounds the small strip mall where our store's in. And from day one, the owner of that property has been anti-cannabis and has not want to work with us. We called them to inform them of our 420 event. We've been open for 10 months at that location now, actually, I think 11. And he actually, for the first time, commended us on our operations there, how well we've done with keeping the area safe. He hasn't completely changed his mind, but he said, in terms of a business and a neighbor, you guys have been absolutely phenomenal. We've had reciprocal business relationships with neighboring businesses in his overall lot. As part of our 420 event, we're spending over $3,000 on food for one of the restaurants in that area. So, to be able to get that type of reversal from somebody who's been so anti-industry, I think really just speaks to what cannabis in general, not just us as operators. I do think that we do a great job. You saw another presenter today, but I do think that the industry in itself offers huge potential to communities. We're not talking about aesthetic improvement. We're talking about conditions of living improvements. We're talking about paying jobs. We're talking about benefits. And then we're talking about stimulating the local economy. It's not just people who are going to buy things. It's also, hey, you're going to buy here. Now you're driving here. You might be driving from another city. Maybe I'll stop and grab food. Maybe I'll stop and shop locally. So, I think that those are important points. And considering, and last one, I know it wasn't harped on or really questioned by you guys, but, one of the comments by the public was drugs are drugs, right? And I think that it's a hard thing for you guys in a conservative community to address and to think about. As a father, 2 children, I myself have 2 children right around the same age. My wife always asks me, oh, would you want one of these in your backyard? I don't use my answers. Typically, yes. And the reason is not because I want people out there, smoking weed and all these things, but it's about safe access, right? And it's about, you guys aren't inviting cannabis into your community. It's very likely already here. But by approving dispensaries, you're approving safe access, regulated, tested materials that can then be purchased and hopefully consumed properly. Obviously, with the protocols we put in place, avoiding youth diversion and things of that nature. Again, it's hard to say they're not drugs, but it's an approved thing. It's being used responsibly. As mentioned earlier, we've got compassion events with patients that we do donations. So, we do believe that we're making an impact in people's lives positively. And I think kind of the further side on that is it's not much different than, liquor stores and pharmacies, which are typically approved by right in most locations. With the added thing that we've worked very hard to be upstanding citizens in the communities that we serve. We have robust good neighbor policies. We're very transparent with, staff members of the city, with neighbors and all of those things. So, with that said, like I was trying to wrap earlier, we not only believe that we're conforming use, but we believe we're an ideal use. We look forward to the opportunity of serving the community and being better entrenched as the years come by if given that opportunity by you guys. So thank you. And thanks for the extra time.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question if I may. Unlike Mr. Nice Guys, I didn't hear anything mentioned about your employees being unionized. Are they unionized?
So we're not unionized, but we sign a labor peace agreement with just about every location that we open. We're only not unionized because our employees have not voted to unionize. So we have a labor peace agreement which offers them the opportunity to come in, meet with our employees on neutral ground, and then offer a vote to our employees. Our employees do receive benefits. They receive living wages at all the locations that we serve. We have just not yet had a location opt in on a labor vote. So, but we do work with UFCW just like them throughout the state.
Okay, thank you.
Going forward with that question, would you guys foresee in the future being unionized if your employee staff count would ask for such?
Absolutely. And that's part of our LPAs is that we have committed to working with the UFCW. If that, we can't force unionization on our employees, we can give them the opportunity to vote. And if they do vote, we would negotiate a collective bargaining agreement, not just with that store, but probably with the UFCW throughout the state at all of our locations.
Thank you. I'm hoping you may comment in the last time we've met and how you spoke when it comes to community integration or community outreach. I've spoke with community members in that area where they say that they never received any notices about this proposed site. May you comment on that?
Yeah, so we went door to door. We did not send out mailers. As mentioned earlier, it's part of our long-term plans to send out mailers, not just to curry favor on the front end, but to really work with the neighbors. I think part of the reason is we did do door-to-door outreach. We did not receive the negative reaction at the last planning commission hearing. So we didn't feel the need now, but again, we have at least 2 planned outreach events between now and opening as part of that communication. And that's, I think, allowing for robust input as we're going through building and planning and things of that nature. So it's part of ours. We did do door to door. We just haven't sent out mailers yet.
Next question is, how do you foresee these events that you have lined up with the community in terms of feedback and maybe language barriers? How will you come forward with building that relationship with community members?
So I've worked with Mr. Fitzpatrick and Mr. Glue from Mr. Nice Guy on plenty of projects before, and they obviously set a really good template. But regardless, we understand the importance of bilingual representation in this community. Every community that we've sent mailers out, just because of the nature of Southern California, we do it in English as well as Spanish. We will plan on having staff members who are fluent, who can speak, and make sure that there are no language barriers. And then I think it's more than just the event. I think it's the long-term communication. So having a designated community liaison who's available 24/7 to anybody in the community. I personally hand out my business cards at these events. I get flooded with emails, but I don't ignore, so it's important to me. I'm a, minority owner of the business, but I think that plenty of steps have been taken in the past. And again, we've got a great template in front of us of what can be done tonight from Mr. Nice Guy. So I think taking a little bit from them, but just ensuring that we've got, proper staff representation. If we didn't have enough staff members, I'm sure that we just hire an interpreter to make sure that we're addressing those concerns, because obviously, even just based off some of the public comments today, language barrier is a reality in this community. And I think that's also something that we would definitely take into consideration in making hiring decisions at this location to ensure that we're bringing in staff that is bilingual so that we can address the needs of customers in the community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. As we toured the location in Costa Mesa, you mentioned that, Off the Charts has expanded to the suites next to the first establishment of Off the Charts. From what I'm seeing here on the floor plan, you have a neighbor, right?
Correct.
Mega Mart. How do you foresee this relationship in the future?
We foresee it as mutually beneficial. I think I spoke on this at the first hearing of, the benefits of our security team being on site. We obviously have no jurisdiction over the interior, but having roving guards throughout the exterior monitoring the parking lot. 2,500 square feet is our sweet spot. You know, it's by design. We have no plans of encroaching on and kicking Mega Mart out. We know that they've been fairly successful. I think they're looking forward to our tenancy because we'll be driving traffic to the location. So we see this as nothing other than a, you know, beneficial reciprocal business relationship, much like I was, you know, alluding to earlier with respect to Costa Mesa. We have, Pokey Tiki, Seiko Time Watch are both adjacent to us within the same strip mall. We've had an amazing relationship with them. I remember when we first, before we opened that location, we carry a lot of inventory, and we had a lot of inventory vans coming in to deliver to stock the store. And at one point, the manager from Pokey Tiki just came over, and it was a very friendly complaint of like, man, you guys have a lot of traffic today. You're kind of taking my business. And in reaction to that, what we did was we actually paid for some of our vendors to go eat there. We said, we apologize, like, this is not normal course of business. This is opening. You know, mostly we have customers that are coming in 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out. We don't intend to do this. So, you know, it's our intention to always be a good neighbor. It's usually part of our conditions of approval anyways. But again, with the stigma that we carry as an industry, it's important that we are the best neighbor that we can be and that we uphold to our good neighbor policy. So we imagine a harmonious and, you know, cohabitual relationship where we both benefit over the long term.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? During the tour, you did mention that a large percentage of the income, you know, that goes through the sales floor, you know, the majority of it is cash, right? Can you explain to us in detail how that cash is handled in a, you know, transparent?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I meant to actually talk about that in my presentation. We have a unique relationship with our banking partner. It's the same banking partner mentioned earlier. It's Dama Financial. Dama Financial gives us immediate access to wire transactions. The problem is that we don't have debit services. But what we do have is what's called a smart safe. So 100% of our transactions are cash. But every shift change, that cash gets deposited into a smart safe. And it's not a typical safe where, you know, somebody could come in, hold us up and try to get the money. That money is actually deposited like a reverse ATM. So it's immediately out of our hands at the end of a shift. It's deposited into our bank and it's made live for us. So the only person who has access to that vault is the cash company that comes to pick it up 2 to 3 times a week. We do not have a key on site. We have no way to access it. So it's as close as a way that we can come to getting cashless on site, just meaning that the cash is out for less than an hour. It's automatically deposited. The Dama Financial knows how much money's in there. They send couriers as it hits a certain number to make sure that we're routinely changing it out. And we don't even have, they mentioned their accountant going to get petty cash. We don't have that as part of our relationship with Dama. They actually bring us small bills as part of their pickup. So we never actually have to have outside banking transactions from our facility. So it's as close to cashless as we can get without having some, you know, quasi illegal debit relationship, because a lot of these relationships where you're getting debit or credit cards, you're getting them under a guise that, you know, oh, we're a plant company or something like that. At the end of the day, cannabis is illegal, you know, 280E exists. So if you're getting a credit or debit, it's not from an FDIC backed bank. And this is the best solution that we've had. And it's been great. We haven't had any theft or robbery at any of our locations. And it's really taken, I think, a lot of stress off of the managers that, hey, this cash is deposited. It's out of our hands. It's documented. And I think beyond that, an important thing is you guys talk about track and trace and transparency. That happens with our cash too. Dama won't accept our cash unless there's an invoice attached. So at the end of that shift period, when our bud tenders are checking out, they actually have to attach the invoices or their tolling for that period to make sure that that matches 1-to-1 with the cash that's being installed into that smart safe.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission? If not, we will open public comments for this item. Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Sure. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 2. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select, which would like to request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. And we did receive a few comment cards, Chairperson. I'll walk them over to you.
All right, can we have Jaslyn Marquez?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Marquez. I'm a loyal customer at Off the Charts at their Costa Mesa location and a resident here in Bell Gardens on Watcher Street. I have been going to dispensaries all over LA for about 7 years now. There have been good ones that come and went. There have been ones where I felt like I might get mugged outside after getting my product, and plenty of ones in betweens. With that said, I have had a lot of shop experience. So when I tell you that Off the Charts is beyond a dispensary I've been to, I mean this when the moment you pull into the parking lot, the time you leave with your goods, right at the door, you are greeted by a friendly and professional security guard. These guys are super respectful. While they aren't giving off super cop vibes, you definitely know they're spot on, and some might even be ex-military. Then once you enter the building, you are in a beautiful lighting with so much selection. Immediately you are greeted with warm smiles, expert advice, making you feel right at home. The people are so nice to you. You feel like family, and I can open up to them about everything I need. I can say that from years of experience, Off the Charts is so far ahead in terms of quality selection, knowledgeable and friendly budtenders, and even better deals that going anywhere else is pointless. No other shop has the selection they have. No other shop has budtenders who actually have patience for you to shop for what you're looking for, no rushing to get you in and out, no terrible recommendations for products, but instead recommendations for products that are exactly what I'm looking for, no matter the budget, the price range. This dispensary has set the bar with the standards and commitment of customer needs. They actually care about you. Who would have thought a dispensary would care about you as much as they do there with their staff and service they provide? Thank you, OTC, for being the greatest of all time.
All right, can we have Melina Robles?
Hi, my name is Melina Robles. I am a cannabis specialist at Off the Charts Sherman Oaks. I have been in the cannabis industry for about 7 years now, and I've been working with Off the Charts for about 4 years. As a cannabis specialist, I'm on the front line of Off the Charts retail experiences, serving the needs of customers and patients by processing transactions, helping customers find what they're looking for, especially with their needs. I actually enjoy coming to work. I know some people don't like coming to work. They dread going to work every day. But the people I work with and the customers I work with are what make my job fun. Off the Charts is a family-run, family-owned business, and I think this kind of close-knit, trusting business model really shows the people that I get to work with at our store. Our customers know we are focused on serving them and the community, and we back this up beyond providing premium customer services by actually getting out with our community, volunteering. We've done trash pickups. We do toys for tots. We do all types of volunteering. Another benefit that I get at Off the Charts, I know we're not unionized, but we do get a lot of benefits. Just for working there, you automatically get life insurance. We also get health insurance, we get vision, we get dental. So we get all the benefits, which is great. We also have a Roth IRA. They also match us with a 401k. A lot of places don't do that. You won't hear anybody matching you. So that's really great that I have that opportunity. And they also have great training. They also offer Americans for Safe Access, and we also get Oxford NAM University training. Off the Charts also offers employees who enroll in colleges, universities, and vocational programs paid reimbursement so we can grow into skilled leaderships. I was able to get my metric certification through Off the Charts, which is great. And just last week, they sent a group of us staff members to the metric convention in Irvine. So we got to grow our knowledge and everything was reimbursed. So that was pretty great too. All of our travel, our food. So it was nice to be able to go learn that knowledge. And at Off the Charts, they provide value to the community by providing free quality education materials. They take us to workshops, seminars, and any other events. So they create a community and the family feel that we pride ourselves in. And I love being a part of that. Thank you.
Can we have Matt Jones?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Matthew Jones, and I'm a licensed realtor that's been working with Off the Charts for the last 5+ years. I've seen firsthand how much Norman and Darlene, the husband and wife ownership group, truly cares about the communities where they operate, and their rapid expansion throughout Southern California is a testament to how they're able to establish long-lasting relationships with neighbors, community members, and city officials. Personally, I was intimately involved in the process of helping Norman and Darlene obtain control of the property at 5605 East Gage. Both property ownership and the existing mega market business operators have been essential in working together with us. As a result of everyone's cooperation, we've been able to not only keep the mega market at the property, but we will also beautify the building, remove the recycling business, and make the premises safer and more attractive to visit. Off the Charts implements comprehensive nuisance mitigation policies, protocols, and design features to ensure that our neighbors and the surrounding community do not experience any adverse impacts as a result of our operations. We understand the sensitive nature and need for discretion for greater community with respect to commercial cannabis businesses, and we intend to build connections in the community and facilitate an open dialogue with residents surrounding our operations within Bell Gardens. We strive to integrate our store into the community versus having the community adapt to our store's presence. Community safety and accountability are prioritized over profits, and our team is committed to consistently maintaining these values throughout all operations. To that end, Off the Charts will appoint a community relations officer that is available by phone, email, or in person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for citizens and neighbors to voice their concerns regarding our operations. Their contact information will be provided to all neighbors within 500 feet of the facility, and in addition to being accessible on our website. I'm in the process of organizing an open house at the facility where neighbors and other community members can come out, see the building, ask us questions, voice their concerns, and get any other information they're looking for to keep their minds at ease, knowing that Off the Charts will run a compliant, nuisance-free operation. Community assimilation allows us to be both accessible and proactive in addressing any hints of complaints or dissatisfaction with the way that operations are being conducted. I'm proud to be a part of this effort and implore the Commission to award this permit with the understanding that Off the Charts is a massive value add to Bell Gardens community. Thank you.
Paul Jackson.
Hello, my name is Paul Gooden, and I am an Off the Charts local partner in Riverside. I was engaged by OTC last year when they were applying for a license in the city of Riverside, and I was immediately evident to me that it was not just your everyday cannabis operator, but these are real pros that have been doing this for a long time with successful outcomes. They do it while maintaining a family-owned and operated approach. This is hard to come by in this industry. Norman and Darlene provided me with all the information I asked in order to make my decision and went above and beyond throughout this process. While a property was not required for the application process, they had still acquired control of a property in Riverside to show their willingness to invest in the community preemptively. I toured one of their facilities in Corona and could not believe how friendly and knowledgeable the staff was. I was also impressed by their dedication to community, as this was a concern of mine originally. Cannabis can be quite disruptive in a given community, but they go to great lengths to prevent this. In all, I am thrilled by the city of Riverside will soon benefit from OTC's presence in the business community, and I think Bell Gardens should definitely award OTC this permit to be afforded the same benefit.
We have Monse Luna.
Hello, my name is Monse and I am the general manager at Off the Charts West Hollywood location. I have been working with Off the Charts for 5 years and have been in the cannabis industry for 11 years. As a manager at OTC, I am responsible for providing leadership throughout day-to-day operations. I make sure all employees are trained and are following off the charts standard operating procedures to achieve a safe, compliant, and welcoming environment for our employees and customers while meeting and exceeding our sales goals and high customer service ratings. I'm proud to say our store boasts a 5-star rating on Google, a 4.9 rating on Weed Maps, and we have not had any compliance violations at any of our 23 locations across California or New Mexico. OTC has created an amazing company culture that really allows my staff and I to thrive. Between generous compensation packages, excellent benefits that range from health and dental insurance to employee assistance programs, opportunities for advancement, ongoing trainings, and education, I feel that OTC gives us all the tools to succeed. There is an environment of trust and transparency that I feel like our staff really operates like a family. The sense of trust is passed on to our customers, whether it's their first time in the store or they have been regularly shopping at Off the Charts since opening. Off the Charts does everything they can to keep our staff, customers, and general community safe and secure. At Off the Charts, every employee is a part of a security program and employees go through training regarding product handling, burglary, robbery protocols, security measurements required by our state and local governments. Sorry, I lost my place, and various other hazards of the commercial cannabis industry. This training also allows staff to recognize impaired customers who may be abusing cannabis and or other substances and prevent them from accessing cannabis, which could harm them more. I think this is really important for all of the locals in the area, just because I feel like it's something that they're expressing a big concern over. So we just want to reassure them that it is something that our staff is trained on and something that we do keep an eye on. We train security guards and all staff to carefully monitor customers to identify behavior that suggests intoxication or impairment. Employees are trained in de-escalation strategies if customers become agitated. We take all measures to ensure they do not enter their vehicles under the influence of any substance. We know a trusted neighbor is an engaged neighbor when you can depend on in an emergency or time of need, and when you can share in local celebrations and get-togethers. Off the Charts is that neighbor, and I know that we will commit itself to being an outstanding neighbor for the residents of Bell Gardens too. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Planning Secretary, are there any comments via chat?
Let me see if there's anybody in the chat line wishing to speak. If there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak, if you can press *6 to unmute yourself at this time, please. And it looks like we do not have anybody in the chat line.
If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. Now, any comments or questions from the Planning Commission before proposing a motion?
I have a question for the applicant. Earlier today, you said about a mural opportunity. How would you go about that? Would you allow our young artists here in the city to provide or help with that mural?
Yeah, so typically we've got to go through, usually planning in some cities to get a mural approved. So we would bring that in. We would look for a local artist. That would be part of collaborating with the neighbors, is seeing if they have anybody that they'd offered. We'd probably reach out to the local chamber and any other local museums that might be in the city to try to seek a local artist. But that would be our preference, is coming up with a local artist.
I do have a question, and it's regarding crime, because, I'm concerned about it myself, right? And obviously our residents as well. And, I've heard today the correlation between drugs and crime, right? Can you just, talk to us a little bit about your other stories? I mean, you mentioned as far as crime, the only thing you had was what, a car running into
Yeah.
to the lobby, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think a popular misnomer that a licensed dispensary is going to attract crime. Currently, the black market continues to proliferate throughout the state, I think at a 3-to-1 rate, compared to licensed dispensaries. And part of the benefits of a licensed dispensary is everybody knows that you are. We have to post our license out front. We've got, our locations mapped on weed maps. And so in terms of attracting criminal activity, from the mind of a potential perpetrator, you're not likely going to go to a place that has license plate reading camera technology, has an on-site security guard, usually 24/7, that has live monitoring and all of those things. So we have not experienced any robust crime again, other than the one incident that we had in Palm Springs. It's been fortunate, but again, I think it just comes back to, because we are so heavily regulated, because we have so many things in place, that we're really a detractant to crime. We've got guards on site that are roving exterior, at night. So typically if somebody's going to come in, they're going to see presence. And I think that goes to daytime as well, because typically in the industry, we're taking over unused buildings or buildings that don't see a lot of traffic, and traffic in itself is a deterrent, right? When you see people coming and going and things of that nature, it's going to be a lot less attractive to criminal activity. But yeah, again, I think a lot of it just comes down to the level of regulation. There's petty theft, right? Of course, that's any retail business. You're going to have petty theft. We have an open retail floor plan, which the chairperson saw, and his first question was, how much theft do you guys have, right? And we're happy to say that across our stores, we're less than 3%. We're typically in the 1 to 3% range, which for retail is phenomenal. Part of that's based off of our business model, where we have a cannabis specialist attending an individual while they're on the retail sales floor. So there's really not much potential for somebody to commit theft, because they've got somebody who's actually escorting them through the sales floor. So again, I think the legality in it itself is one of the biggest deterrents. But then again, just the implementations that we put in place at all of our locations.
And one final question. Do you have any partnerships, or do you work with the different law enforcement agencies in the surrounding stores? Or I believe the real estate agent was talking about city officials, but what about law enforcement?
So
Especially right now where, unfortunately there's not a lot of police officials, right? As our residents brought up.
Yeah, so it's a city by city thing, how much the local law enforcement wants to be involved. We have an available live feed to all of our video cameras. All of our alarm systems are triggered to the local police department. We've got stores that are right across the street from police stations that are a huge benefit to us, where we've got a really good relationship. It takes some of the burden off of our security members, but it's something that we're always open to. We've even gone into some communities and had people from the police actually comment on our crime prevention through environmental design, right? When you design a facility, you're trying to design it in such a way to deter crime as much as possible. And nowadays, there's at least 1 to 2 officers in every police force that's trained on that. So we've put our plans in front of police chiefs before, in order to get them approved as part of the process. So it's something that we're open to. And at the end of the day, that collaboration makes us safer. And then, another thing is just our overall video camera retention, right? So that can be something that we can partner with local law enforcement. So if any neighbors or anything has criminal activity, we're always happy to share it, what's come from our cameras.
Thank you.
I have a question. The security that you have on site when you're during operating hours, are they armed or not armed?
City by city question. Usually we look at the ordinance, and we also look at the surrounding area. We typically are unarmed, mostly because the presence of a weapon is going to escalate, but that's something that we've had some cities require armed guards, but it's a conversation that we typically have with the local municipality.
Okay, are they inside the building or outside?
Both. So we typically have somebody outside as well as somebody on the retail floor.
Okay. Your, I believe, general manager said that, somehow, I believe they referenced, that they won't let, customers take off while they're under their influence. How does that go about?
Well, they don't take off we don't let anybody in who's showing signs. So we have actually, we have ways to detect people who are under the influence. We do have one store in Palm Springs that allows for smoking. We've got a lounge out there. But with the lounge, our staff is trained to, one, monitor consumption, and two, ensure that anybody who's consuming on site does not leave. But we do have detection protocols for anybody who may have slurred speech and patterns that indicate, being under the influence. Typically, we don't serve them. Well, not typically, we don't serve them if we catch it. And then we also will call local law enforcement if we think it's an escalating event.
You stated that you have a store with an outside patio where you do allow them to smoke. Are there any stores where you allow customers to smoke within the store?
Actually, the one in Palm Springs is an in-store lounge. And we have to, as you can imagine, going through the planning process and working with the city, have gone through extensive lengths in terms of engineering to ensure that it's properly filtered, that there's, good airflow in the space, and that there's no odor emitted throughout the facility. And we're proud to say that we've actually never had an odor complaint at that store. We've also never had a, driving under the influence connected with a customer or anything of that nature.
Is it your plan to expand on that type of infrastructure where you allow them to smoke in buildings?
No. It was something that we did really early on in the industry. We've had opportunities to do it elsewhere. It's really it's not a productive business model. There's certain communities that are like walking communities that I think you could lend yourself more to that type of business model. But in terms of a community like this, especially with there being residents within any general vicinity, we have no interest. It's kind of like a restaurant versus a grocery store. It's a hard business model to maintain. The regulations are extremely robust. We've done a great job at complying with them and having a safe space. We've found benefits to having it in terms of using the space for community education events and things of that nature. We've had comedy events there and all of that, but it's a very tough business model and not something that we plan to replicate.
Because you acknowledge that this community is dealing with such a sensitive subject. Do you have anything as a deterrent to prevent customers from just walking away from your store and start smoking on their way to their car, like 2 blocks away, that might cause neighbors to, have complaints?
We have roving security who goes perimeter of our building. It's somewhat of a liability to have security go beyond certain distances beyond a premises. We do have video cameras. We have our neighborhood liaison, as mentioned. But I think one of the biggest benefits is that we're properly parked. Meaning that most people who come to the site are going to park in our facility so that we'll be able to monitor it. I was mentioning the neighbor in Costa Mesa earlier, and that was one of his biggest, I think he has history with family of some type of substance abuse, but one of his biggest concerns when we came in was he was really afraid that our customers would park in his parking lot and then, consume in the parking lot. And one of the, I think, biggest compliments we got from him when he mentioned the 420 event was, "You've completely, changed my mind on that. I haven't seen anybody consuming in the parking lot. We really appreciate it. Staff smoking, nothing of that nature." So, it's something that we monitor. We take our presence in the community very seriously. Everything that leaves the premises comes in a child-resistant tamper evident package, and then also has another package on the exterior that shows whether or not it's been tampered with. That's by design, not only for us, but for state requirements to show whether or not somebody's opened the package prior to getting home and to deter that very activity.
Also,
Thank you.
Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office, just to respond to a couple of your questions, Commissioner. The ordinance, so the municipal code explicitly prohibits on-site consumption. So do the conditions of approval, similar with smoking, which is also considered on-site consumption, but also conditions of approval require no smoking signage on the property and also prohibit those activities on the property as well. So very happy to hear that OTC has some mechanisms, but the city also has some mechanisms to ensure enforcement as well.
You both.
sometimes dispensaries have to make recall on certain products. If that were the case with your establishment, do you guys post notices and do you guys notify the city on those things?
We don't typically notify the city. We do post notices in the store to customers, and we send something out to, customers have the option to provide us with contact information. So if they do, we send out a notice. The DCC's been really good about recalls. We've had two, so far, I think in the past 6 months. Only one actually affected one of our stores. We get all of the recall notices because that's just how the DCC works. It sends it to all licenses. No, so typically, there's an escalation if it's a adverse thing. Usually it's something like mislabeled THC, right? Which is not a huge adverse health effect. But we do have protocols on recalls if it's an elevated reason for a recall, what we do in terms of local outreach, what we do in terms of reaching out to like the local public health safety organizations in our area. So luckily we haven't had to go there, but we do have those procedures in place. And then I should add that with the recall, if anything is found within our inventory, we immediately destroy it under video surveillance in accordance with state law, and send that video recording to the DCC.
All right, during this discussion, the illicit cannabis, or black market shops, were mentioned. This question is more so directed to staff. What are those reports, in regards to illicit cannabis, shops in Bell Gardens?
So that information was not collected as part of this application review process.
And that is private information at this point, sir, because there's investigations going on.
Thank you. Again, for staff, what are some steps, if possible, if it could be answered, what are some steps that the city is taking to, mitigate and decrease, the establishment of such illicit cannabis shops?
Well, I can tell you, sir, they have come up in the past. We know of at least two incidents that the police department has been made aware of. And our staff is continuously looking not just at unpermitted cannabis operations, but just unpermitted operations of other businesses as well. So our code enforcement officers are aware that this is something that they need to be looking for. So we are very proactive when it comes to that. We don't wait for a complaint to come in. So that is ongoing. And I can tell you that as soon as more information becomes available and it becomes public, we will inform you about that.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any other questions or comments, before proposing a motion?
I guess I'll go ahead and reiterate what I reiterated, what I said earlier regarding our first applicant. And that is that this product is an ongoing sensitive matter, right? On the federal level, it's not permitted, but it is up to state by state to allow. And in this case, it's a retail establishment here in our city. We have a lot of oversight agencies that will make sure that the establishment is following protocol, following ordinances, zoning and rules and laws and obligations. So I understand hearing from the applicant today and from prior meetings that they are doing their due diligence when it comes to safety and security. And they also even provide a plethora of benefits and opportunities for their staff. For them to allow a mural opportunity, that's also great. And I feel that they are willing to, work with law enforcement here and also with the community in the long run. I don't see any issues when it comes to the land use and the other items that were mentioned. And that, with that being said, I move forward in accepting this proposal before us. Thank you.
This question is for legal. Was that motion sufficient?
Commissioner Mendez, was that a motion to move forward with recommendations?
No, that was just more of a comment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll still need a motion, Chair.
Mhm.
Chairperson, if I may, also if we can just note for the record that time, we close public hearing.
All right, we'll close public hearing at 7:46 officially. Commissioners, any motions on the table?
Okay, Commissioner Mendez, motion for the conditional use permit number 2023-67 and ordinance number 941 to approve a proposed development agreement authorizing a cannabis retail use off the charts, also known as OTC at 5605 Gage Avenue, file number 2023-67.
I second the motion.
Planning Secretary, will you please
Um,
conduct?
Sorry, City Attorney's Office
Yeah.
again, just want to confirm that is moving forward with recommendations 1 through 3.
Just to be clear, because it gives all these numbers and everything. so
There's,
just
there's,
referring to-
there's 3
referring to
separate
that.
actions that you're taking. You're making a determination on CEQA. You're approving the CUP and you're moving forward with the recommendation of the development agreement. I just want to make sure that we have all 3 actions as a part of the record.
Yes, I'm motioning to approve all 3. It's just, for future reference, maybe if it can be on the computer screen, that would be helpful for reading purposes.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
I second the motion of adapting 1 through 3.
All right. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Sure, Commissioner Boadro,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
After a thorough review of the general plan, zoning ordinances, staff's in-depth report, and specific cannabis ordinances, I have found no grounds for denying the conditional use permits and development agreement in question. My motion is, my vote is a yes.
Thank you. Motion is 4-0. Motion passes.
And the final day to appeal this action is May 2nd.
We will now begin with item number 3 on the agenda at this time. I will open public hearing at 7:49 PM. May we have the staff report, Mr. Jones?
Yes, greetings and thank you, Chair and Commissioners. The next item is for the development of a new element to the 2010 Bell Gardens General Plan, last updated in 1995. Staff members have been stewarding the use of the Local Early Action Plan, or LEAP, grant funding awarded to the city by the California Department of Housing and Community Development to develop an environmental justice element to the general plan. In August 2022, staff released a request for proposals for expert assistance with the element, and in November 2022, the council adopted a resolution authorizing Impact Sciences to manage the project. Impact Sciences has been a leading woman minority-owned environmental firm based in Los Angeles for over 35 years. City staff has partnered with this small business with the mission to improve the daily lives of Bell Gardens residents. As noted in other commission meetings, the firm recently won an award for their work on the City of Bell's EJ element, our neighbor. This is a pivotal time when community-based organizations assert the need for environmental review and programs to address exacerbating heat island effect associated with increased ambient temperatures from paved surfaces of urban development, asthma, obesity, heat island effect, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. And the council recently resolved to declare a climate emergency and commit to policies opposing fuel fossil expansion, accelerating clean energy transitioning, and endorsing the call for global fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Next slide. Thank you. This presentation, your commission will hear EJ element background and description, EJ requirements to include highlights of the proposed goals and policies, and the recommended environmental review determination, the next steps to put the framework in place. Next step. Next slide. Yes, thank you. Background is California's State Bill 1000, SB 1000, was passed into law to address traditionally disadvantaged communities disproportionately impacted by pollution when at least 2 general plan elements are updated after January 1st, 2018. The elements that were updated in 2022 include the housing element and the circulation element. In 2020, Bell Gardens was awarded a grant for the development of policy and framework to address accessibility, sustainability, and resiliency. In 2022, work began in earnest to develop the element with Impact Sciences and the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative through surveys and community outreach. Surveys and outreach events occurred during the summer of 2023 in conjunction with the city's Department of Recreation and Community Services events for meaningful engagement and outreach to determine visioning, direction, extent, and project scope for equity and justice in a robust and inclusive way. State law requires a local planning agency to provide opportunities for the involvement of the community through various appropriate methods. Next slide. What is the EJ element? Environmental justice is guided by the Government Code, Section 6504012, which aims to minimize the adverse effects of environmental hazards in order to create a healthy environment for all people, especially those groups, populations, and communities impacted by pollution. The EJ's goal is to reduce burdens for communities experiencing adverse effects, promote meaningful participation of those communities in all phases of the environmental and land use decision-making process, for meaningful consideration of recommendations from populations and communities most impacted by pollution. Next slide. So SB 1000 requires cities and counties that have disadvantaged communities based on certain demographics to incorporate EJ policies into general plans. The state's Office of Planning and Research provides an overview of federal and state laws and policies that are related to EJ and guidelines for equity, avoiding overexposure to hazards, and livability to minimize impacts from traffic and pollution exposure. Disadvantaged communities and objectives and policy should be identified in this element. The California Communities Environmental Health Screening Tool, or CalEnviroScreen, is a data tool developed by the Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment pursuant to the Health and Safety Code Section 39711 and other statutory requirements. Of the 12 indicators found there, much, if not most, of Bell Gardens can be found in the higher percentile ranges, from proximity to sites known to have hazardous materials to air quality. The screening process includes census tract designation, state median, and the Department of Housing and Community Development state income limits, and additional pollution burden from hazards or air quality. Next slide. Once disadvantaged communities are identified and local context, community input, and engagement acknowledged, objectives and policies are created to address land use and other planning decisions that impact health. These objectives identified include what you see on the screen: to reduce exposure to pollution, promote public facilities, promote food access, promote safe and sanitary homes, promote physical activity, and reduce any unique or compounded health risks in disadvantaged communities not otherwise addressed above, promote civic engagement, and prioritize improvements and programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. Next slide. The Bell Gardens EJ element will include 6 sections. The introduction would discuss the priorities, policies, and actions. The background is a comprehensive description of environmental conditions and baseline settings. The existing general plan goals and policies are an outline of what's already codified and in our vision. Goals and policies will establish the goals and policies set forth by the EJ element and the meaningful community engagement that has occurred. The implementation section provides programs and measures to put the goals and policies in place, and the list of preparers includes a list of those on the project team. Next slide. The goals would serve as an implementation tool to realize full incorporation into the general plan and applicable codes for direction in guiding staff activity, advisory boards such as yourself, and the council's decision-making. Considering and assessing baseline conditions, implementing models, those things will vary based on the community health outcomes and based on what the community survey indicated. Some of the work has already been done. For example, the housing element necessitated redesignation of some industrial sites. This EJ element would recognize and solidify those changes and ensure ongoing efforts to clean sites that pose a significant hazard or modify sites that pose a significant hazard to health and human safety. Next slide, please. Programs to implement goals and policies. Community outreach would continue for those who would share about asthma, poor ambient air quality, and other conditions, inventorying contaminated sites, and identifying water quality. As mentioned before, modifying land use would be a part of protecting vulnerable populations from over-concentrated uses that pollute. Incentivizing modernization of older buildings speaks to unique or compounded health risks in a disadvantaged community. The quality of available housing stock has direct implications, and affordability could prevent risk of homelessness. The measures identified include citywide surveys, community outreach working groups, forums for resident input, reports and presentation for action, inter and intra-agency coordination, inventories of known pollution sites, tree preservation programs, and other measures to reduce unique or compounded health risks. Implementation would also include various departments across the city as staff is directed by the components of the EJ element, in many cases within existing budgets. Next slide, the environmental review. An initial study and negative declaration was prepared as the environmental review document for this element. The draft initial study and negative declaration was made available for a 30-day public review period coinciding with the elements review. And the initial study determined there were no anticipated significant impacts on the environment. Next slide. A lead agency should be alert for environmental issues, and that was the reason for the initial study that might require preparation of an EIR or that require additional explanation. Of the environmental factors evaluated, none were found to be significantly affected by the proposed framework contained in the draft element. And the next slide, the next steps. The public comment period is open until and beyond the city council hearing date. On May 13th, the city council would be provided with a presentation of the actions taken to develop the element for a healthy community and your commission's advisory body recommendation. After further public participation, should the council indicate its intention to adopt, the EJ element could be incorporated into the general plan as early as summer 2024. Next slide. During this presentation, your commission heard background on the state's legislation requiring adoption or revision of an element after 2 or more elements are adopted or revised. And again, the updated circulation and housing elements were adopted in 2022. So that specifies our need for an environmental justice element. And we discussed the intent to create a healthy environment for all people impacted by pollution. And the requirements were mentioned and goals and policies summarized. The recommended finding of a CEQA exemption was found to be in keeping with guidelines pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, and the next steps are contingent on your commission's action tonight. Staff recommends, next slide, adopting the resolution to recommend to the city council approval and adoption of the element to be incorporated into the general plan to identify environmental justice goals, policies, and objectives. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, City Planner. Any questions or comments?
And to clarify one more thing, it's not a CEQA exemption. I apologize. It's a negative declaration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones, for that presentation. I am all for it. I just have areas of concern or more clarification. You brought up earlier about an intra and interagency collaboration. I want to make sure that includes government agencies that oversee water municipalities, as it's also an environmental justice topic, along with our air quality, if that would also integrate down the road conversations or workshops from agencies like AQMD that focuses on the air quality in the area, CEQA, of course, and also when it comes to traffic or new improvements, like if there was going to be more bus transit, how Metro will need to get involved, and also if there's like roads or anything that has to do with our freeway transit system that also include Caltrans. I just want to make sure that these other government agencies that are around our city get involved when it comes to this environmental justice piece.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you for that. It is a part of the measures included in the draft element. And so with, for example, AQMD, we would be bolstering that collaboration that already occurs in terms of when a business comes in for a business license. So that will be expanded to not just, for example, automobile painting shops, but it would expand across a wider range of business uses and types that come in for business licenses.
Thank you. I just wish I could hear more like how that's gonna trickle down to our community members to be in the know. I feel sometimes it's just lack of access to this information. And yes, we may have workshops, meetings open to the public, but can there be a little bit more on the proactiveness side in alerting community members that are not available for such hearings, for such workshops, for such trainings? You know, I think it's important that even a mailing of these current things and things that maybe not necessarily people think of it as an environmental justice piece, but I don't know, just thinking offhand, like mosquitoes and what they can bring and harm our community members, right? I feel like not just our community events is enough. I hope that with this piece, we can integrate a more push when it comes to information to our community members.
Commissioner, the commission does have the option of requesting an additional workshop. We could advertise that to the public and invite them to come and view this element. I know that our consultant has done that time and again, also at public events like with the Recreation and Community Services Department events. However, if you feel that there is additional need for that, we could get direction from you to do that. And in a sense, perhaps give recommendation to move forward to the council with the thought that we will have this additional workshop. Or if you'd like to hold off on recommending, have the workshop first and then bring this back. I'd like to ask our city attorney, since this has been noticed as a public hearing, Would we then continue the public hearing to a date certain while we have this additional workshop?
Yeah, I would recommend a date certain, so you don't have to mail them out. again.
So that is your prerogative.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add another idea there. As we're talking about this, maybe down the road, our city website can have a tab that touches bases on these topics, right? On environmental justice. It's just an ideal suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, overall, it's a very thorough report. One thing that really stood out to me was item number 7, in which the environmental justice element identifies as promote civic and community engagement. I think that's crucial. One way we could stimulate community engagement and promote civic engagement is by, sending out a monthly flyer, to every home in the city in Bell Gardens, just laying out events that are to be expected during the month. And of course, we could even attach a QR code or something that would have these events updated, as we go, given that some events may be postponed or canceled and such. But it would be great to see key dates for such meetings, community workshops, and it's just a way to substantially increase community engagement. Yeah. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments before proposing a motion?
Not at all, just great report, by the way, and I'm just gonna echo what you all said basically, and for me, and it's really important, as we dealt earlier, right? Public outreach and increase opportunities for civic engagement, right? So it's educating our residents. And not only that, just how are we gonna disseminate that information? So, yeah.
And Chair, just a reminder, before you make a motion, we have to open up the public hearing.
All right, so we will now open public comments for this item. Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 3. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us to the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. And we did not receive any comment cards for this item, Chairperson.
Thank you, Secretary. Any comments on the Zoom or live stream?
Yeah, it looks like we do not. Anybody in the chat line wishing to speak on this item?
There are no additional public comments. And no objection by the Planning Commission. I will close public participation. And if there are no additional questions or comments by the Planning Commission, I will also close public hearing at 8:09 p.m. All right, the floor is open for motions.
Okay, motion to approve the general plan amendment number 2022-06, create an environmental justice element and approval. Initial study negative declaration filed 2022-060.
Second that. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct the roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, and we will now begin with item number 4 on the agenda. At this time, I'll open public hearing at 8:10 p.m. Can we please have the staff report, Mr. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Stephen Jones, City Planner. Good evening. The next item is for the authorization to expand hours of operation for alcohol sales of an existing Type 20 California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, or ABC, license. During this presentation, your commission will hear the site description and zoning, project description, and ABC license concentration analysis, which support the recommended approval action. Next slide. The request is to find the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to the existing facilities guideline and approve the project to expand the convenience store hours of operation for alcohol sales. Next slide. And the site is located within Zone C4 and located within the Regional Commercial General Plan designation. The 2,339 square foot unit is contained within the 29,149 square foot lot, and that has been shown to be adequate in size and shape to accommodate the use. Next slide. Unit A fronts Florence Avenue, a major highway within the 2022 circulation element, and there are access points from Florence Avenue and from the intersecting Habanera Road. Next slide. The convenience store currently operates with limited hours of operation specific to alcohol sales. Next slide. There are currently 3 Type 20 off-sale beer and wine licenses within the census tract and 7 ABC licenses total there. Next slide. If expanded hours are authorized, there would be no change in the number of licenses from ABC. Next slide. The proposal is consistent with the general plan land use policies 3 and 5 to enhance and stimulate potential economic vitality. And next slide. Enhanced operational standards are required and proposed with expanded hours of operation for alcohol sales. And next slide. Staff is recommending the categorical exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act since no physical changes to the site are proposed. And next slide. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit. During this presentation, your commission heard site description and zoning, project description, and concentration analysis, which support the recommended approval action. We are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. At this time, if the applicant would like to come forward and present.
7-Eleven. I have Niraj Remni. He's the franchisee of this location. I know it's been a long night. In light of the positive staff report, promise to be brief. I would like to thank the planning department, particularly Mona. We worked very closely with her. She was extremely professional throughout this process. We are grateful and very pleased with the positive staff report. I think most importantly, we were pleased that the staff report mentioned that the police had confirmed that they did not have a history of law enforcement related complaints or nuisance activity at this location. Commissioner Boado, you asked a question earlier about did the applicant have a relationship with law enforcement? And I just want to tell you, we were seated outside here at the base of the steps for quite a while earlier, and at one point, quite a few police officers, one by one, they had some food in hand and they were headed upstairs, and Niraj knew just about every one of them. And so I can only surmise they're in the store often getting coffee, using the bathroom facilities, all things that franchisees typically do have a relationship with local law enforcement. And of course, they want them in the store. So we appreciate that. And I was really happy to see that. So again, with that, happy to answer any questions. Again, appreciate the planning department working with them on the application. I know Niraj did want to say hello and just introduce himself as well, and I'm here for questions.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nirav Regmi. So I'm the owner of the 7-Eleven. It's situated in 6012 Florence Avenue. So yeah, I'm in this business since 10 years, so I'm quite familiar. But right here, I'm here since 2 years in this location. So yeah, I'm just want to thank you, City of Bell Gardens, and as well as the Bell Gardens Police Department. They really helped me a lot. They help me out when some other things happen. I just call them and they will be there within 2 or 3 minutes always. So I really appreciate it. I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, questions or comments for the applicants or staff?
I have a question. In the neighboring cities and other 7-Elevens, what are the typical hours of, alcohol sales? Are they not standardized usually?
I guess I would say more often than not, the alcohol sales hours would conform to the state law, which would be 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. But no, they're not standardized because it just depends on every city with its conditional use permit requirements. So it can vary quite a bit, but more often than not, it would be 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
I guess a follow-up question. Clearly you're trying to expand the hours of sales, so so you can have more business. Do you find that you having sales at that later of time frame might expose you for more rowdy customers, people who are already kind of very enjoyed themselves for the night, and potentially do we not expose ourselves to that?
Yeah, I want Niraj to answer that as well, but we're not naive about the issues of selling alcoholic beverages. In this case, it's 1 extra hour. We didn't go all the way to request 2 a.m., so it's just that additional extra hour from 12 midnight to 1 a.m. One of the things that in the discussion with planning staff that that's included in the CUP is that from starting at 12 midnight, they have to lock the cooler doors. So that's an extra safety protocol, given that it is awfully late at night. So if anybody wants a beer at 12:30 a.m., that requires the interaction of the store. They're going to have to unlock the cooler door. So that's to address theft and just make sure that the store does have some extra control with that extra hour that we're asking for. And do you want to go ahead?
Yes, we'll do we can do that from 2 to whatever the time we'll get, maybe 12 to 1 or 2. We will lock the door, and this is actually the demand from the customer. They ask me a lot of time, okay, why don't you extend your hours? A lot of customers, they know me now, and we know each other from the community since 2 years. So yeah, that is the thing. Yeah, we can unlock the door after 12 o'clock. Then if we lock the door.
Because you have these precautions, why didn't you ask for 2 o'clock?
We just didn't want to overreach, basically. I think sometimes baby steps are better. And I think the initial request may have been 2 a.m., if I recall, but in discussions with staff, we decided to cut it back.
If question for the staff, why was that suggested, if we may know?
I think it was in the similar fashion of baby steps. We don't want to say just because you can, you should. It was just about what's right for the community and in collaboration with the applicant. So at the end of the day, the commission could make a decision as you see fit.
Yeah, there was no strong arming from staff or anything like that. It was one of the things Mona They did ask us for an updated security plan and lots of other information. And just in that dialogue, that was my call that, let's cut back the request and make it a more modest request.
Commission, if I may, one question that could be posed is, other 7-Eleven stores, what is the typical hour of operations, especially in Southeast LA? Is it typical to have a 1 o'clock versus a 2 o'clock? I would just suggest that.
Definitely want to encourage the commissioners to give us their opinion on whether, you think that really he has a good relationship with the community. Do we find it unacceptable for him to ask for 2 o'clock? I don't, what is your opinion on this?
Well, for me, that's a good question, man. In Southeast LA, as far as what are the hours basically for other 7-Elevens?
Yeah, the 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. Only this store I'm working since 10 years is the hour from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. Otherwise, wherever I work, the other 7-Eleven since 10 years, the typical hour is 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Given if extra measures are taken, for example, you guys have updated the security plan, which is great. I think if it's extended to 2 a.m., with the condition that the doors are for the freezers if they're locked. I see. I think that if such enforcement is in place, having the extra hour extended shouldn't potentially be a problem. At least that's given that that's what also like occurs in other 7-Eleven stores.
Sure, and we very much appreciate that. And we certainly believe there's going to be any additional problem if sales were to extend to 2 a.m. That discussion happened probably 2 or 3 months ago, and so we were trying to be conservative. We didn't know that what the staff report was going to say. We didn't know that the sheriff's department. We were hopeful certainly that they would confirm that they were not having problems and things like that, but we didn't know that. So we tried to be conservative, but I appreciate the potential support of the commission to go that direction, and certainly we'd be grateful for 2 a.m., but we're grateful for 1 a.m. as well.
No.
I'm a frequent consumer at the 7-Eleven location, and I've seen firsthand the cordial manners that the staff provides to their customers. I know I've seen firsthand the relationship that the owner and the staff have with the customers. My concern is, and I hope you can respond to that, is besides a booming in sales on your end, how this adding this hours law will benefit the community, knowing that there is a correlation with the more access to alcohol, the more crime there is in the area. If you may respond to that.
Sure. Certainly there's no, necessity for alcohol sales, so we want to be candid about that. As it describes in the staff report, there are certain elements of the general plan that this request is consistent with, promoting economic activity. One of the key things for the store is that they want to have as complete of offering that they can for the customer. So if the customer that's coming in and he wants to buy a 6-pack of beer and some bread and some chips and milk, whatever it might be, if they can't buy the beer, they're not buying the other products. So the alcohol sales is ancillary. Typically less than 10% of the floor space is allocated alcohol, and alcohol sales are at a 7-Eleven are typically around 15% of the total sales. But if you take out the alcohol a few hours a day or altogether from a 7-Eleven, all the other sales go down. So it's that relationship, and as Niraj says, the customers ask for it, and they want to be able to serve the customer in a responsible way.
If I may, ask a question. I don't want to interrupt you. If I'm, no, not to you, but if I may ask a question. What other, to staff, what other establishments nearby offer the ability to sell alcohol all the way till 2 o'clock?
Adrian, could you bring up the slide again with the licenses for ABC? Thank you. Thank you. So till 2 o'clock, I would say it's mostly, well, I don't know the hours. I apologize. So we have type 20s, which is the same type as the 7-Eleven at 6300 Gage, 6502 Ira, and 6012 Florence. That's them. So of those, I don't know the hours. I can look up for Tono's Market and El Gallo. That would be the only other two type 20s in this census tract. Let's see if I can find that. I doubt they're going till 2 a.m., but I don't know. And then the others are the type 41, which is restaurant. And so if they're open until 2, they would have the opportunity to do that. And then El Picante catering is a traveling type license where they could do it in different areas. El Gallo closes at 9 p.m., so they wouldn't be offering at 2. And then Tono's is a meat market that's likely closes at 10. So there's no other type 20 licenses in that census tract that would operate until 2.
We did provide that data to staff. I think part of our main point is that most of those other locations closed by 10 p.m. Bell Gardens Gas, they were open 24 hours, but they don't have the variety of grocery products that 7-Eleven has. Bond Liquor, they were open some days until 12 midnight, but that's a non-conforming liquor store, fundamentally different than the 7-Eleven market. Gage Avenue, they were open till 12 midnight Friday and Saturday. They do have a full range of groceries, but they're nearly a mile away from this store, if that's helpful.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
For me, I was just curious on the other 7-Eleven in Bell Gardens. That's basically my question as far as if we know what time they have.
Well, we can do a quick Yelp search for hours of operation.
24 hours, but
I think we could potentially just, give them a call and confirm that.
Because the other 7-Eleven location is the one on Clara and Eastern? Okay.
I'll check to see what the CUP, I should have access. Just one moment.
I have a question for the applicant. Because most of our questions revolve around safety, right? And for the community, we essentially, we don't want to sell alcohol that late if someone's already been enjoying themselves that late, right? And maybe, you know, people start coming into our community that aren't from here just to get it because they can at 2 AM, right? Does the staff have training in regards to being able to identify people who already have had too much or even one's too much, right, apparently, right?
Yes, and so it's actually a crime under state law to
Right.
sell alcohol to an obviously intoxicated person or a habitual drunkard. That's a crime. It would also be a violation of their ABC license. And 7-Eleven has something they call the Come of Age training program, which back in the days when the ABC would certify the training programs of companies, which they don't do that anymore because of budget issues, but when they did, 7-Eleven's training program was certified by the ABC as meeting the best training practices. So it's a computer-based training. Every employee has to do it before they're allowed to work the register and sell age-restricted products like tobacco or alcohol. And that is one of the modules, is to look for signs of intoxication and then find, you know, appropriate and polite ways to refuse the sale.
Thank you.
And they could lose their ABC license for it. So it's not something you want to mess with.
I mean, one thing I do want to point out, Commissioner Mendez mentioned, I've been there before as well, and great customer service, very friendly. I mean, no complaints on my end. Even my parents have been treated with respect. Never seen any issues whatsoever. And even for me, crime, that's the big word today we've been utilizing, right? Crime. Like, I tend to go to that one if I need something quick because I feel safe there. So I do want to state that.
Yeah, very, very happy to hear that. One of the things we added in the security plan that I worked with Niraj on is, you know, in light of today's world and the challenges with the unhoused persons, he's now implemented a program where every day he has employees going outside every hour, check the perimeter of the store. It's logged on a sheet, pick up any trash if there is that, make sure there's no loitering or anything like that. So that's just a way to make sure there's good eyes on a continuous basis. And with that log sheet, then he can make sure that the employees are compliant with it. So something I think is a good idea at these locations.
Secretary found it. It's still 2 AM. 7625 Eastern has a CUP from 2002 with the permit number 2002-015, 6 AM to 2 AM.
Question for staff. If we wanted to have have the applicant get 2 o'clock, how would we go about that?
You could simply make the adjustment in your recommendation. So you'll be finding that the project is categorically exempt and then approving the project with the change or the update from 1 AM to 2 AM.
Would we have to have a explicit consent from the applicant to push such a motion?
That'd be nice, and we don't have to make them, huh? You must stay open.
Don't want to force. it.
Right. Merc.
That is agreeable and appreciated when we, thank you for your consideration on that.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, applicants. All right, the table is open for any motion.
If I may, Chair, just because there's been some confusion about how a motion should be worded, and you know, it really doesn't. It's confusing, but that's the reason that staff lays it out. And you know, I do a lot of council meetings, and all they say is motion to approve. They don't say anything else. So what they mean is motion to approve the recommendation that's in the staff report. So really, in this case, that's all it would take is motion to approve staff's recommendation And then if someone wants to make the adjustment, the motion could be with one change, that the hours be until 2 a.m.
And Chairperson, if I may, we'll still need to open the public hearing before making a motion.
Right. We haven't opened it yet. Yeah, no, not yet. Yeah. So we will now open public comments for this item. Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 4. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the chamber. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Chairperson, it looks like we did not receive any comment cards for this item, nor do we have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak.
Thank you, Planning Secretary. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. All right. May I have a motion in regards to staff's recommendation?
Yeah, I motion to approve staff recommendation.
I second that. Planning Secretary, will you please
So-
conduct?
So the no motion to change to 2 a.m. then, no change. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. So what I'm motioning is the staff recommendation now. And then if obviously you want to amend that, then we could go take care of that.
So staff's recommendation with the adjustment from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. Correct? No, no, it's to 1 a.m. Gotcha. All
So
right.
Chair, just to clarify, the motion is to base it on staff's recommendation. But I want to make it clear that staff has no issue with the 2 a.m. So.
Would I be able to motion alternatively with the modification then?
That's correct, yes.
Motion to approve a staff's recommendation with the adjustment from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m.
All right, may I have a second?
I second that motion.
Perfect. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Mendez,
No.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
and Chairperson De La Rosa.
Yes.
3-0, motion passes. I apologize. That was a 3-1, meaning that the motion still passes.
And the final day to appeal this item is also May 2nd.
Thank you very much. Public comment is now open for items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Planning Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on agenda items. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comment are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. We did not receive any comment cards, nor do we have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak.
If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation for the agendized items. And following that, public comment is now open for items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the planning commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. We did not receive any comment cards for items not listed on the planning commission agenda, nor do we have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak, Chairperson.
Thank you, Secretary. If there's no objection by the planning commission, I will close public participation for non-agenda items. All righty, and now moving on to staff comments.
Thank you, Chair. Stephen Jones, City Planner. This item is just to update you guys on some happenings around the city. During the April 8th council meeting, Commissioner Ramirez was appointed. Welcome. We appreciate your service and thank you for being here. And the council waived full reading and introduced an item for consideration by title only. Ordinance number 942 would amend chapter 5.64 retail cannabis business permit of Title V, Business License Regulations and Taxes of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code to limit the number of cannabis retail permits citywide to 7 licenses. The second reading of the ordinance is anticipated to occur April 22nd, and the council has indicated its intent to adopt that. The council also adopted a resolution to finalize the annual progress report required by the state to report on activities that implemented the Bell Gardens general plan. So the items you approved were highlighted since they help realize the community vision of appropriately managed growth that you guys recommended the council adopt, and they did so. Council authorized an additional not to exceed amount and time extension to coordinate activity with the State Department of Toxic Substance Control and the Regional Water Quality Control Board for the remediation of the brownfield site on Schull Street, also known as the former Brook Oil site. That happened on April 8th as well. The city was awarded over $6 million to clean the site of hazardous materials, and work has been ongoing since the Equitable Community Revitalization Grant was awarded in 2020. The grant term is to be extended since, among other things, new information and updated reports and analyses require additional and revised work to ensure the site's suitability for reuse. The site was a surplus land ag site, and the council authorized an affordable housing provider a development agreement to construct 100 affordable housing units once the site is rehabilitated. Also, the council, a lot happened on April 8th. The council accommodated the effective use of our new permit tracking system by authorizing LARIAC partnership. LARIAC is the Los Angeles County Region Imagery Acquisition Consortium, and it provides regional and citywide digital imagery and data sets. The use of the data will help streamline entitlement and permit issuance and improve customer service. And then, so you know, you should stand by for announcements regarding training. As our city attorney mentioned, it's going to help facilitate efficient meetings. Well, he didn't mention that, but he mentioned, you know, the concerns with making motions and things like that. So this training will help efficient meetings and facilitate the broadening of your understanding of protocol and effective community engagement and public participation. So yeah, stand by for that. You'll get some more information about that training opportunity. And then in terms of public hearing forecast, I feel it warranted to mention the site we just mentioned, the former Brook Oil site, where 100 affordable units are anticipated to be approved. You guys will be seeing that project coming up soon. And I only mention it again because City Council just authorized that extended time for the PSA, the agreement, and the not to exceed amount for the remediation of that site. And this concludes city planner comments. Our director and deputy city manager is here for additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Commissioned and Chair and Commission, I congratulate you on a meeting very well run today. I appreciate your professionalism, the way you guys work together. Excellent. So thank you very much for that. I think we're going to have a lot more challenging meetings coming up. And in light of what's happening with cannabis, keep in mind that in the future, possibly the next month or two, you will have two at least more cannabis permits coming your way. So I wanted to also let you know that our rent stabilization ordinance, we're continuing to do our workshops. We just had one this evening. We had one yesterday. So every month we have two standing meetings, one for the landlords and one for the tenants. So I encourage you to let people know out there that we have this resource. We want to make sure that people are informed about what's going on with rent stabilization and tenant protections. So we encourage people to continue attending and asking questions. Also, we have a stakeholder survey out there. Hopefully, everybody here has taken it. Please encourage your family and friends to take it. We're trying to get as many surveys as possible before that closes. And it's available on a QR code. So you can go to the city's website, take a snap of it, and take the survey online. They also have them physical. So if somebody doesn't have access, they can come in and fill it out. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes at most. Also want to let you know that our permanent local housing allocation rental assistance program is underway. It started on February 16th. And so far we have over 50 applications. So we're not sure how many of those are going to get qualified. But we encourage people to submit, anybody that's having issues with rent and they want to get that assistance. Again, they can get up to 6 to 12 months of rental assistance. So please let people out there know that this program is available. We're going to try to continue getting that PLHA money from the Los Angeles County Development Association every year. So far we've had it for 3 years and we've been able to put it together. If you recall, the first year we did eviction defense. So people took advantage of some of that free legal aid. And we also had down payment assistance, but since we have our Cal Home program and our home occupancy program, we've got enough monies for that down payment assistance. Also encourage people to take advantage of the Cal Home program, both for down payment assistance and for owner occupied rehab. We've got that money there. We've got 2 rounds of Cal Home money. We want to make sure that that money doesn't go back, to the state, because if we don't use it, we're going to lose it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of inventory out there, but if you see a house out there, maximum people can qualify for is 650,000. And I know that's pretty low in Bell Gardens. Most of the homes out there are 800 and above. But if you happen to see something, I know right now there's currently about 4 homes in Bell Gardens that are ranging between 550 to 650. So I'm hoping that those people that are currently on the waiting list for the Cal Home grant will take a look at those homes and try to qualify. So thank you, Commissioners. That's all I had.
Okay, moving on to Commissioner comments.
I do have some comments for staff. Deputy City Manager, were you involved in the negotiations between the 2 cannabis presentations that we had today, regards to like the percentages of total gross receipts towards the city? Were you part of that?
No, sir. That was directly between our city attorney and the applicant. So what happens is once staff deems the application complete, it gets sent over to our city attorney, Paloma McAvoy, to negotiate with the applicant.
Follow-up question. The permitting process, is it inclusive, and does it give any kind of priority to people of color? People who have been on the opposite side, negative side of the drug and war in the past? Do we give any kind of, priority to those people, applicants?
There is no priority given to. It's first come, first serve, and it's based on qualifications, financial stability, experience in the cannabis industry. But anyone can come in and apply. The only thing we do look at, and this is based on the grant that we received from the DCC, is make sure that nobody has a felon background. So we do not allow anyone with felony to qualify.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I have a comment, and this will be off tangent when it comes to planning commission, but I had the opportunity to be involved in something called CERT training. This happened just this past weekend, and this was hosted by what I believe is the Neighborhood Watch Committee or group here established in Bell Gardens. It was nice to see LA County Fire Department instructors coming here and giving this training in Spanish. There was a lot of community engagement. We used the Veterans Hall Community Center as the hosting site, and it was just beautiful to see all that engagement as you could imagine. And the hopes is to establish a CERT team. For those that are not familiar, CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team. I believe my colleague here, Commissioner Boado, heard me say that extensively in the commission that we were before prior to planning. Thankfully, we are seeing now momentum, right, happening. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the Neighborhood Watch team that was here today and during the audience, during all the other items in our agenda. And I just wanted to thank them and congratulate them that they are pushing forward on emergency preparedness. And I look forward to working with them in the future. Thank you. That's all. Oh, if I may also just want to thank the city staff for really helping us out today. Well, as we all know, it's a delicate subject to discuss, let alone to approve. But I'm just glad that the city staff was just very diligent in providing us with that info so that on our end, we can make that informed decision. Thank you so much.
Just to piggyback on you with CERT, I'm really passionate about that. I'm involved at work too in city of Pasadena. And we did push that a lot in our previous commission. So now that it happened, I'm really happy about that. And also our neighborhood, watch program that we have here is pretty amazing as well. And I'm glad they're pushing it. Now, today was a challenging meeting. Long meeting. We're all tired. But I do want to send thanks to city staff. Thank you for all your hard work and being there for us. We would be lost. And also the city attorneys as well, because those moments where, it gets challenging, right? But I also want to thank the audience members that were here, our residents too, because it's their right to be here and also to advocate for themselves. And even if they have any issues with anything, they're free to speak, right? And that's one thing I really love about our community, right? No matter we have difference of opinions, at least we could actually voice them. That was beautiful to see today. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that, thank you to city staff for, preparing highly detailed reports. They're all highly informative. And again, I want to also thank Mr. Romo for, meeting with me and helping me, navigate meeting the applicants in an ethical and transparent and also, professional manner. That was very helpful. And also for legal for helping us navigate the meeting. It's all very, very, very impactful. And to the community, I want to state that, I understand and relate to the concerns, voiced by the public regarding the proposed cannabis, retail storefronts in our city. I think it's also important to acknowledge the stigma, the fear, the moral considerations surrounding this topic. However, I think it's crucial to also remember the role of the Planning Commission as a implementing body of city policy rather than policymakers themselves. Again, after, reviewing thoroughly, the general plan, zoning ordinances, the staff's in-depth report and the, specific cannabis ordinance, even then, found no grounds to deny the conditional use permits and the development agreements in question. This decision today is based on the legal framework and policies set forth by the city council, which, while I empathize and relate to, the sentiments of the community, our responsibility in the planning commission is to uphold the established regulations and ensure that there's fair and consistent, application of the law and, and such permits. I continue to the community, I encourage continued dialogue and engagement from all stakeholders. As we move forward with this decision, especially, towards the city council. And, I want to thank everyone for their input, participation, questions. It all really contributes massively to, to carry these meetings. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, if there's no objections by the members of the planning commission, I will now adjourn the planning commission meeting at 8:56 p.m. We'll call it 9. Thank you.
Good job. Thank